land on which this match will be played today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening.
This is ABC Sports coverage of the 2023 Sir Doug Nicholls Round. Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Here we go, here we go. Put a hand up in the air. Here we go, from the front to the rear.
17th versus 18th in Tasmania, and might be as off-Broadway as you can get in the AFL world, but dig a little deeper and there's lots at stake today in Launceston. The shadow of the number one pick, Harley Reid, looms over these two clubs. But what price can you put on pride and building a winning culture? That and plenty of other questions will be answered in about 3 hours' time this afternoon. It's Hawthorn, Borundara and West Coast Borlu on the lands of the Stony Creek Nation, the Palawa people in Launceston, Tasmania. Grandstand AFL as Sir Doug Nicholls Round continues. My name is Chris Robot. I'm joining you in commentary this afternoon alongside me, Michael Maney, and our experts today, Nathan Burke and Mick Malthouse. A big welcome to you.
Hello, Chris. Lovely to be here, and a lovely, beautiful, sunny day here in Lonnie. Fantastic.
Now, you're worn out, Berkey. You've been to Ballarat, you've had to rush down to the MCG, and now you've rushed down to Launceston, the beautiful Launceston.
Beautiful Launceston. I've had all weather too. Yesterday it was very still in Ballarat, but
which is unusual.
Quite chilly and wet. Today we're dry and sunny, but I think that wind might play a bit of havoc today. That looks a bit blowy out there.
Now, could I just ask one question, lads? I'm just looking at the teams and I'm trying to find an emergency for, what do we call him, the sub for West Coast. Has that been listed yet?
I think they're getting one of the blokes out of the cheer squad to put on the jumper at the moment.
Well, my son Barry's for the West Coast. He's sitting in the stand, so I'm just wondering. I honestly can't find it. Is there someone there that should be?
We think Greg Clark has been named as the sub. There's been no update to that. We might go down to Andrew Cooling on the boundary very shortly to get some confirmation on that. But the information that I have in front of me is that Greg Clark is going as the sub, unless there's a very, very late change for West Coast, and Connor McDonald will be the sub for Hawthorn. In fact, it might be a good time to introduce the fifth member of our commentary team this afternoon, Andrew Cooling, who is on the boundary line. Can you provide us some clarity on that one, Andrew?
Unless there's been a late change, I haven't been informed about it. Will be Connor McDonald and Greg Clark as the named subs. I haven't been told anything, haven't seen any scrambling down here, so I think that's very much the case.
And conditions, it's looking a picture in Launceston today.
Yeah, lovely weather. It's barely a cloud in the sky, sun shining here, beating down, good conditions, but a bit of a swirling breeze, it has to be said. The flags are blowing in all sorts of directions. It's going to be interesting to see which end it favours, or whether it just pushes to the near side, but quite windy at ground level.
Players arms linked and standing at attention for this afternoon's Welcome to Country. We might go to ground level now, where that is about to commence.
Kalen Hart, Inara Hart, Danny Gardner and Manila Gardner for our official Welcome to Country ceremony.
Warata Taipani Lumi, Kanamalukata, Lutruwita, Milaidina Palawa, Tunapri Liti Marina, Tunapri Panina, Putia Lumi, Raichi Lunkana, Milaidina Nika Palawa, Prungi Manta, Riawina Ra, Langana Rala, Minakani Palawa Kani, Palingana Nina Tu. I spoke in the language of the Tasmanian Aboriginal people to welcome you here to Launceston on the Cunnamulla Tamar River Aboriginal land. We remember the two tribes who occupied this area prior to invasion, the Litami Marina and the Panina people. And we acknowledge the Tasmanian Aboriginal community of today who continue our ancestors' legacy. We would like you to acknowledge past Aboriginal players who have paved the way for our young men and women playing the game of football. We recognise the contribution of Aboriginal footballers, Torres Strait Islander footballers, that the Sir Doug Nicholls Round represents. Warranta Palinganalumi, we welcome you here. Ngāri Nida too, thank you.
Thank you very much for that very special ceremony.
Yeah, well, there it is.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the smoking ceremony and some music, all part of the festivities and colour of Sir Doug Nicholls round. Both teams wearing their special First Nations-inspired jumpers this afternoon, of course, as well as this wonderful round continues into Sunday afternoon. Mick Malthouse, it's a not typically attractive affair generally between clubs 17th versus 18th, but lots at stake today for these two teams.
Chris, two teams going at it, two teams with great pride. When you analyse what's happened for their football clubs, let's go to the last 25 years or thereabouts, it might even be longer. Just think of the number of premierships that have been won by these two teams. They have a great history, pride. They are going through I guess a period of just growing, trying to get some of the younger players up into a position where they can take over from the greats. West Coast, of course, won a premiership in 2018, I think it was. So they'll be replacing a lot of the greats, the Kennedy-type players. Hearn will go at some stage, as will Shuey, the club captain. So they're on show. Hawthorn, it's well recognised with Sam Mitchell. He wanted to move a few players out to bring some young kids in. They've taken a few hidings, but what I enjoy about these games, and I know I'm not trying to speak for Berkey next to me, but you just love seeing the kids go and see how they develop. Generally, if they can last until 23, 24, that gives them around about 30 or 40 games, sometimes 50 games. You generally think that if they get to 50 games, they're going to be good enough to go on and play 100. Now, that could come in 3 or 4 seasons. It could come, in 5 or 6 seasons, depending on injuries and that. It's those initial years, because as you keep drafting, those players that you draft can overtake some of these players. So I reckon a lot of these players are on notice to say, we've got to make it happen before the end of this year, before the new draft comes in, because we may not last. And when you're a bottom side like this, you keep experimenting. You've got to have some patience, but you've got to experiment. So that's why I'm really looking forward to today.
Both teams with just one win to their name so far this season. Hawthorn 1-9, West Coast 1-9. Hawks with a percentage of 60, West Coast with a percentage of 60.5. And we don't want to hammer it home too hard, but that name, Harley Reid, the touted #1 draft pick, does loom over this fixture in terms of the race to secure his services for season 2024. But both teams will absolutely be going hammer and tong out there, Berkey. You can't... there's not a player in the world that would have that in the back of their mind.
No, absolutely not. And you know what? If they don't get the #1 pick, I reckon the second best kid in the whole of Australia would be pretty good as well. So you'll end up with him, so which is not a bad booby prize. But I agree with Mick. These games are exciting. One, to see what the players now can do, but that bigger picture. I sort of harken back a long time ago when I first started, and Robert Harvey and Stuart Lowe. We got games in the team because our team was terrible. And we just got games week after week after week after week, and eventually that sort of fast-tracked. By around about that 3rd, 4th, 5th season, we were ready to then sort of take over the mantle, and I agree, Mick. Hopefully these guys are the ones who will carry that mantle in the future.
All set to go here in Launceston. Over to you, Michael Maney, for the first bounce on this Sunday afternoon. Round 10, Sir Doug Nicholls round.
Thanks, Chris. They haven't met here since 2014. Hawthorn were the winners by 44 points on that occasion. Hoff now gets a little handball away to O'Neill for the West Coast Eagles. Didn't know which way he was going there for a second. Then kicked forward. No one can take the mark. Sicily with a handball back to Hardwick. His little half-distance kick back to Hoff. Close to the boundary line on the outer side. Now taken by Waterman of the West Coast, who's hack kicked looking for Jamison, and Frost did some good body work on Jamison, but the ball finds its way at half forward. Inside 50, the West Coast Eagles early. Breeze probably going to the Invermay end of this ground.
It's a bit swirly, isn't it, Michael?
It is.
It's all over the place.
It's cyclonic earlier. Up they go. Reeves with the double-fister down. Now Frost gets the handball away. Look for Mitchell of Hawthorn. He couldn't take it. Sheed. Nice handball away. Nice kick there by Jones. It's a good kick, and he's popped it through. Jermaine Jones gets the first goal of this clash in Indigenous round, so Doug Nicholls round. And how appropriate it is that Jones kicks the first here. The West Coast 1 straight 6. Hawthorn yet to score.
Yeah, I was watching him yesterday. I come down to watch training yesterday, just to have a chat to a few of the Eagle people and that sort of stuff, and I was just watching Jones go about his work. It was only a very light session, but what got me about him, when you get a bit closer to these players from the fence, he's so wide in the hips, he's got really good balance. He reminds me of good soccer players that need that balanced lateral movement. He didn't need a lot of lateral movement there, but when he took the football, that first metre, he got clear, and it was a beautiful finish.
So West Coast strike first blood here in Launceston via the boot of Jermaine Jones. They lead 1 straight 6. Hawthorn yet to score. Back in the middle we go. Sun-soaked York Park. Rucks go in it. Williams and Reeves do battle. Williams won it down only as far as Nash. She couldn't get the handle on it. He was tackled by Newcomb when he eventually did gather the footy. There will be... No, umpire will let it continue in the middle of York Park. Eventually the whistle comes. We'll have a ball up. Just slightly to the attacking side for West Coast. Up it comes again. Reeves wins it down straight into the path of day. He's immediately wrapped up by O'Neill. And another stoppage. Still in the middle of the ground. West Coast lead 1 straight 6. Hawthorn yet to score. 2.5 gone in this first term. Williams now. Kelly tried to burst through. Couldn't get the handle. Tackled by Nash. He eventually fed it out to Hunt. He's wrapped up by McKenzie. Taken to ground. Michael Maney, your turn.
Ned Reeves is a huge man. Bailey Williams is a huge man, but he looks tiny against Ned Reeves.
Yeah, he does. There's a lot of players around this ball, and Newcomb's just laying over an opponent in Petrocelli as he now gets to his feet. Another ball up. Reeves and Williams. Reeves, nice little backhander to Nash. And Nash gets his kick away. It'll be a shallow inside 50. Kazitsky worked under the footy. Tries to paddle in front of him. Just loses his feet. No free kick there. Goes back in after it. Fed a handball out to McKenzie, who fumbled. Now Hoff did it nicely. Gaff back to Hoff. Now to Duggan. Now Jones, who kicked that first goal. I think he might be caught with the footy. And the umpire said yes, a free kick will go to Hawthorn. It'll go to that man Mitchell. Isn't he really relishing his second opportunity to get going in an AFL list? Here's Mitchell. He'll kick it inside 50. He's looking for a mark. Kazitsky back with a flight. Brockman, normally smart here, to Bramble. Bramble's got some work to do. Dodges around hard on the boundary line. Wants to centre it up. Or did the boundary umpire say he ran out of play before he got the kick away? I think it might be a ball in. I'm just waiting to see. Yep. I think it was Bramble who did a two-step over there in front of the scoreboard and ran the ball out of play. It'll be a ball in.
Right in front of the scoreboard in the right forward pocket for the Hawks. First foray forward of the afternoon. Umpire throws it in. Rux jostle it, comes straight down to Day, who gave the handball off to Newcomb. Spies a target inside 50, couldn't quite hit Mitch Lewis off his bootlaces, won the handball out to the running Amon. He's at left half forward for the Hawks. Back to Lewis now, who followed up. Gets some time and space, wobbles one inside 50. Awkward one for Brockman, fell for Kazitsky, missed the handball to McKenzie. West Coast will work this out of defence via a scrambler off the boot of Sheed. Unable to hit a target. Gaff came through, immediately tackled. It'll be a ball up at left half forward for the Hawks, right on the paint of the 50. Not a bad little crowd in, all things considered, this afternoon in Launceston. We've got the supercars happening down the road as well. From the stoppage, ground level, Jermaine Jones gathers the footy, just boots it to nobody in particular, and Frost takes a defensive mark for the Hawks, kicks into the middle of the ground where Bramble marks.
The crowd hold their breath when Frost got it, but now it ends up with Nash on the outer side wing and then spots a teammate, Bruce, in a bit of space in front of Jones. So he's going to kick it inside 50. Bruce kept it low. The kick just missed the target. Out it comes, Gaff with a handball away, looking for Duggan. Duggan had just dangled in the air for a little while. Rotham. Now back to Sheed. So Sheed's just outside his defensive area on the outside of the ground, and Allen takes the mark, but it's gone out of bounds on the full. So Frost with the free kick and just kicks inboard and finds Nash. Now Nash has got a couple of players running for them, and he switches to this side of the ground to find Sicily. Sicily goes to Impey. Impey, the man who designed the jumper that Hawthorn are playing in, goes to Brockman. Brockman wanted to play on. He's got to step around and did it beautifully around Hunt, and then has to go back on his right boot, and that's a terrific kick by Brockman. Well, he used a bit of silk there, channeling Sean Burgoyne, he was, and Will Day takes the mark. True centre half forward position, about 47 from goal.
Yeah, smart play by Brockman. Really could have blazed away, measured it off, and then did the body balk just enough to find that 1 yard space and then be able to pick a player out. Very, very polished.
Just looks like he's got something about him, Brockman. So too this man, Will Day. From right on the paint of 50. He's got some fair hook on that, and that'll go out of bounds on the full. So West Coast 1 straight 6, Hawthorn yet to score. We've gone 6, almost 7 minutes in the first term.
Now the smooth moving Will Day unable to register a score as Bazzo marks in the back pocket for West Coast upon the resumption of play. He'll kick up the broadcast wing to a contest as the big men get to the front of the pack. Meek got a hand to it, but it'll go out of bounds for a boundary throw in. Just forward of a wing, Hawthorn's attacking side. West Coast lead early, 1 straight 6. Hawthorn yet to score. 7.5 gone in this first term. Rux jostled, Meek got to the front, won the tap, knocked over the head of Nash, just tried to get it forward. Bursting through was Brockman, went to go on the left foot, found himself some time and some space, and the right foot finish was absolutely exquisite. Tyler Brockman take a bow. He put the shimmy on his West Coast opponent, opened things up and kicked Hawthorn's first. Hawthorn 1 straight 6, West Coast 1 straight 6, 7.5 gone first term for Grandstand AFL, Nathan Burke.
Well, forward play doesn't get much better than that. He ran onto the loose ball, gathered it cleanly, didn't panic, had a couple of West Coast players coming at him, but just that little shimmy. He didn't move a lot. But when you've got a player who you know that has really good evasive skills, you tend to just go a little bit softer at them. You don't actually charge at them. And that gave him just an extra step. And then once he got that extra step, he just summed it up perfectly. You could tell he's looking around. Who can I pass it to? No one there. You know what? I'll just take it upon myself and kick the goal. So that's a really classy piece of small forward play.
1 goal straight 6 apiece. He was not only channeling Sean Burgoyne, but maybe the man who wore number 33 for Hawthorn, Cyril Rioli.
Very similar.
Very similar, except the right footer. Out of the centre comes Day. Day with a terrible sort of kick, knocked on beautifully by Lewis, but it didn't go to a teammate. Rotham just dives on the ball, so West Coast defending here. A big tackle in on Hoff, no free kick. In goes Moore, ducked the head, umpire said play on. Witherden tries to burst through the pack, but he's tackled well, and it will be a ball up. So Hawthorn in attack. They're about 40 metres out from goal. They're kicking to the left of your radio dial. Little handball out to Jones. His scrubby kick is marked by Sicily, a couple of kicks from goal.
75 metres out from goal, James Sicily, who marks on his chest in the long sleeves this afternoon, kicks to a dangerous spot inside 50. It was a magnificent kick to spot out Dylan Moore, who marks gratefully and will kick for goal 35 metres out, slight angle.
Yeah, just dominating the game at the moment, Hawthorn.
Round the body goes Dylan Moore, plays on immediately and no problems whatsoever. Hawthorn have their second. They lead by a goal. 2 straight 12 the Hawks. West Coast 1 straight 6. 9.5 gone first term for Grandstand AFL. Mick Malthouse.
Yeah, just watching the play. I know the flags sort of tend to think that it's not overly strong, but that wind is certainly favouring to the left of our broadcast area, and that, I guess, when you're a side that's on the bottom or thereabouts and you're against the wind in the first quarter, you kick the first goal, there is a tendency to defend and perhaps even overuse. I think West Coast have been overusing the ball a little bit with their hands instead of getting the ball in the forward line, but Hawthorn have done it well. They've got a loose player in behind the ball, put pressure forward, that ball keeps coming back. The Eagles have to be a little bit surer with their ball, don't be so rushed, but Hawthorn are on top at the moment.
2 straight 12 the Hawks. West Coast 1 6 straight 6. His Day out of the congestion, nicely to Warple. Hawthorn are going into attack again. Warple just pulled the kick, up they fly. Wonderful mark's been taken back there by Foley. Terrific mark, contested mark. They're without Tom Barras today, that defensive West Coast, so they're going to have to find a way. Foley goes out wide to the wing. Allen leapt, couldn't take it. Crumbs taken by Warple by hand. Now back to Weddle from Warple. Weddle's kick, hugging the boundary line, but that man Foley has taken the mark at half-back.
That's brave, because he left his opponent to come out to meet that. That's good play.
Short ball to Witherden, who kicks to Gaff, still inside defensive 50, the Eagles. Andrew Gaff, he'll exit defensive 50 here and go up the outer wing. Weddle got in front of his opponent in West, took the mark, but it was out of bounds on the full.
Andrew Gaff, I think, according to Champion Data, officially the worst kick in the AFL so far this year.
I wouldn't have picked that, Nathan Burke. Great stab as Weddle takes a bounce, gets round an opponent, drives Hawthorn inside 50 again. Pack of players form, nobody able to take the mark. Williams at ground level, shoveled it off to Edwards. Now Hunt in the defensive goal square, has a look up the ground and picks out O'Neill, who marks in front of his opponent in Mitch Lewis. He's at right half back for the Eagles.
That's an excellent kick. Excellent kick. Changed direction too. They just seem to be getting bogged down on the other side.
O'Neill's kick to Kelly dropped the mark, but Kelly got it back to O'Neill, who helped out. His kick to the wing. Jamison running with the flight of the ball and then backs it up nicely. Did the roving. Hunt just kept on running from his first go. Here's Chesser, lost control of it and then got back and then was mobbed, taken by Day. Day's tackled hard, beautifully done by Ginby. Now it ends up with Moore for Hawthorn. So Hawthorn with blank in their defensive 50 and they just steady it down a little. Sicily, that kick not as good as the one previous to find Moore for a goal, and he turns it over and Sheed has got it on the wing broadcast side of the ground. So Sheed, little kick off the instep, got a bit of distance about it too. No mark there to Sicily. Got the handball out nicely to Frost. Another handball by Moore to Mitchell. Mitchell running out of options. He switches to the outer side and the mark has been taken by Butler.
Plays on by hand to Weddle, who streams out of defensive 50, all on the outer side. He goes over the top to Bramble, who puts on the afterburners and has a bounce. Kicks towards right half forward for the Hawks. Reeves was the target, unable to take the mark, but Moore flashed through at ground level. tried to pick out Bruce in the forward pocket, but he had two West Coast defenders to deal with, and it's knocked over the boundary line for a boundary throw-in. Right forward pocket for the Hawks, who lead 2 straight 12 to 1 straight 6.
Berkey, it's good quality.
It is zooming from one end to the other. There's none of this sort of chip around going nowhere. At least they're trying to go forward when they get it, which is what I like.
From the boundary throw-in, Bruce in best position, couldn't get a handle on the footy, went in again, might have got a high tackle from Jinby. Umpire said he did. And Luke Bruce will kick for goal, 40 metres out on a slight angle.
You got Bruce and you got Brockman. I reckon Brockman's a young Bruce the way he moves, and so two very, very good half forwards playing. This is where the Eagles will be tested.
So Luke Bruce for his first of the afternoon, and to extend the margin to 2 goals. All-time leading goal kicker here at York Park, Luke Bruce. Loves it in Launceston. Sends it on its way. It looks good. Luke Bruce kicks Hawthorn's 3rd goal, his first of the afternoon. And the Hawks skip out to a 2-goal lead. Hawthorn 3 straight 18 lead West Coast 1 straight 6, 14 and a half gone. First term for Grandstand AFL, Mick Malthouse.
Well, it's easy, I guess, from up here, but it just appears from that first goal, from that moment on, Hawthorn have been the better side at clearing up the football, using the football, keeping the ball in their front half. I think the Eagles, when you've been hit hard with injuries like the Eagles have, there's a tendency there's a disconnect, and at the moment the forward line just seems to be a different relative whatsoever. The Eagles, if they can get the ball moving in the half-back line and don't close it down, don't close their mind down, move the ball quicker and give their forwards a chance, that's the way you're going to break any side, and you can break Hawthorn. But if you don't move it quickly, then Sicily will just sit behind the ball and take over.
Hawks by 12 points, back in the centre. Jinby tried to get a kick away, and the umpire said he didn't have it. In fact, it's Jamison. So Jamison gets it to Jones. Jones with a little handball away to Sheed. He wanted his left boot. And then he just decides to go back inboard and find Jamison. And just on cue, a bit of chippy stuff. Here's Rotham.
So it's a perfect opportunity to get the ball inside 50. At least put the Hawks defenders under pressure.
Allen's been forced to play up the ground a bit. And on cue, comes through, tackled by Sicily, and the ball held to him. And just outside their attacking 50 on the grandstand side, West Coast Eagles. Hawthorn 3 straight, West Coast 1 straight. Reeves with a bit of strength. Newcomb, he's tackled by a couple, and it'll be another ball up.
Yeah, it's quick movement by the Eagles. That will unsettle any back line. So they've got to move the ball when they can take it.
Reeves won it down. Nash just tried to slap it forward, went in hard again, had Duggan for company. Jinby emerged with it strongly, fed out the handball to Sheed. He had a man in Petruccelli running past. Handball receive, and inside 50 go the Eagles. Getting in front was Frost, unable to bring down a strong defensive mark. Moore went in low, he was tackled. All wrapped up, 25 metres out from West Coast's goal.
Once you get it in there, you might get a free kick. Who knows what's going to happen, but the key is you've got to actually get it in there.
Up it goes. Waterman does the ruck work against Reeves. He roved Reeves' tap and then was immediately tackled by Newcomb.
Yeah, smart play by Waterman. He knew he couldn't win the ruck, so he just roved the ball.
Let's see if he goes again. Reeves and Waterman. Reeves double palmed it down. Petruccelli flashing through, tight on the boundary. Snap on goal, misses across the face. Out for a boundary throw in opposing pocket. Hawthorn 3 straight 18, West Coast 1 straight 6, 17 and a half gone first term.
Yeah, inside 50s is 11-2, and that tells you about where the game's at. So it's now stuck in the forward line for the Eagles.
They've been able to hold it in for a little while. Reeves took it out of the ruck, and then the handball to Newcomb. His half-distance kick. There's a free kick. Warple was high on Sheed. And Sheed, there you go. Yes. Get it inside 50.
Yeah, and pressure the ball getter, and generally speaking, the backline player under pressure. I know you like to go into the boundary, but they end up going down the corridor, and hence Sheed's in the right position. And you've got to have good structure behind the ball. West Coast had a pretty good structure behind. They didn't lose their line, and now we have a shot on ball and goal.
Just the 1 goal this year to Dom Sheed. He'll kick from 40 metres out, almost directly in front. Sits it up. It's a good-looking kick. The goal umpire says, that'll do me, and that'll do the Eagles. Nice kick from Dom Sheed. So value for money inside 50 at the moment. West Coast 2 straight, Hawthorn 3 straight, 18 and a half gone first term.
Well, exactly what you said, Berkey. Get the ball in there. Anything can happen. And particularly if you've got a mindset that you want to make sure that the opposition, in this case Hawthorn, can't take it out easily. It's only been in there 3 times for 2 goals. So, I mean, the bell's ringing. Just get the ball in there as quick as you can. Not haphazardly, but certainly as quick as you can.
Hawthorn by a goal. Andrew Cooling's on the boundary.
Tyler Brockman's just headed back out for Hawthorn, but spent the last 5 minutes in the hands of both physios, getting a couple of calves worked on pretty vigorously. So looked a little bit proppy, just one to keep an eye on throughout the afternoon.
Already has a goal to his name. An impressive finish it was.
Dom Sheed, by the way, is 5 and 2, so he's a leading possession getter at the moment.
Out of the ruck, Warple with it. Don't argue on Tim Kelly. Drives Hawthorn inside 50 with a dangerous kick. Lewis was the target, kept his feet, unable to gather. There is Tyler Brockman. Won the footy, fed out a handball to McKenzie. He was tackled, had Day in support. Got the handball to Warple, who went across to Mitchell. Little kick inside was too tall for Luke Bruce. West Coast defence scrambling. Edwards comes through, gave it to Hunt. His rushed kick was off the side of the boot. It's out of bounds on the full. It'll be a Hawthorn ball 70 metres out from goal. Broadcast side. Weddle to take the free. And another chance for the Hawks to launch inside 50. In fact, it'll be a little closer than that. More like 55 metres out.
Goal. It's a free kick in the goal square.
There is a free kick in the goal square. Well spotted. And this will be a downfield free kick. So Weddle has been marched to the goal line. He pops it through, and Hawthorn, that'll be the easiest goal they kick all day. 4 straight, 24 the Hawks. West Coast 2 straight, 12, as we just try and decipher what happened there in the goal square. Mick Malthouse, what did you see?
Well, I just saw the umpire nominate that there was a free kick downfield. Now, I don't know whether it come from the source, whether it's a 50 metre. I doubt it. It seemed to be something happening in the goal square. But I don't know whether you relay that to the player who's infringed on or the player with the ball as a shot.
Oh, so very soft.
Gee, there was just not much in that.
Watching the replay there, it was Bailey Williams and his opponent, and as you do, stopping a player from trying to lead, a bit of a push and a shove, that type of thing. And the Hawthorn player more tripped over than was pushed over. But as soon as he went to ground, the umpire paid the free kick. So very, very soft.
6 goals without a miss today. 4 straight, 24 Hawthorn. West Coast 2 straight, 12. Don't see that very often. Bounce of the ball in the middle. Williams got a bit of it. Now Sheed works it to Kelly by hand. Ginby, little fumble, goes back in after it. In goes McKenzie for Hawthorn. He's tackled by Ginby. Umpire says, give it to me. Still in the centre square, but Hawthorn slightly, ever so slightly, in attack. Meek down to Newcomb. Got his arms free. Beautifully done. Got it to Moore, and Moore's kick wasn't the best, and Witherden in front of Reeves takes the mark. Witherden with a little short hit-up kick and finds Sheed at halfback.
Sheed been busy early for the Eagles as he exits defensive 50. Witherden takes the mark, and he'll go laterally to Duggan. He marks it left half back on the outer side. Witherden kept on running and receives the short ball from Duggan. They progress things 15 metres as he goes further afield now to Tim Kelly.
That's it. This will be his 3rd possession. Need more from him, the Eagles. He's a quality player. He's just got to get himself into the game.
So Kelly, just back of a wing on the outer side for West Coast, kicks well into the middle of a nest of Hawks. Newcomb come up with it, shared it with McKenzie. He released Impey off half back. Spotted something he liked at left half forward. It was Mitch Lewis who took it on the bounce, showed some candy, went inside 50 for the Hawks. Kick was wayward. Duggan took the footy on the bounce. He was wrapped up and spun to the ground by Tyler Brockman. We'll have a ball up 45 metres out from Hawthorn's goal.
That wind has really picked up. All the Eagles' kicks on the far side of the ground are just hanging in the air, getting 35 to 40 metres at best.
Reeves into the path of Newcomb, unable to gather. Ginby could for West Coast. Found Kelly with the handball. He was immediately tackled by Day. It's all wrapped up. And another stoppage, 55 metres out from Hawthorn's goal. 20 minutes gone in this first term. Hawthorn by 2 goals, 4 straight 24 to West Coast, 2 straight.
Just notice the time clock stopped, Chris, so on 20 minutes. So here's Butler, now Williams. Williams with a turnaround kick to the wing. Hardwick just paddling in front, had a bit of pressure on, funneled it out toward Newcomb. Newcomb with a handball on the bounce to Mackenzie, got it back to Newcomb, and Newcomb's got a player in a bit of space wide out. It's Amon. Amon kicks in short, looking for Reeves, but he slipped over. Ball just trickles all the way through to the opposing back pocket. Little kick by Edwards, not a good one. Weddle's kick one, lines him up and boots a second. Wow, the kick out was a bit of chaos stuff. And Weddle just got on the end of it and booted Hawthorn's 5th goal. 5 straight 30, West Coast 2 straight 12.
If you West Coast Eagles, you want to make Hawthorn beat you by being better than you. But the last 2 goals that they've given the Hawks, one, a free kick. It was soft, but it's a free kick. Puts them right on the goal line, and that one, the player just coming out of the back line, kicks it straight to a Hawthorn player who just standing by himself puts it through the middle. So they're 2 sort of gimme goals that they've given Hawks. And when you're struggling for wins and you want to keep in the game as long as you possibly can, you're kicking against a bit of a breeze now. So going inside quarter time, 2 goals down would have been perfectly acceptable. You don't want to just cough up an easy one like that. So they've got to make it harder for the Hawks to score.
16 inside 50s to 2. The Hawthorn Football Club leads that stat as West Coast attempt to come out of the middle. They won't get past Carl Amon. The ball spills out of the stoppage. John Newcomb's handball was a little awry. It went into the arms of Xavier O'Neill, but he was tackled fiercely by Jarman Impey on the outer wing. Have a ball up it goes. Reeves and Williams do the ruck work. Kelly merges with the footy, got it off to Duggan. He was tackled, fed off a handball. Jermaine Jones had to go and find it. Eventually did. Left foot ball up the line. It was a good kick and a good mark from Waterman, who marks strongly. He turns and goes. Inside 50 go the Eagles in the Jamison direction. Unable to take the mark. Day went through. Might have got one in the back. Umpire said no. Petruccelli emerged with it. Handball was picked off by Newcomb, but he's tackled by Kelly as he attempted to bust through. And we'll have a ball up 35 metres out from West Coast goal. Hawthorn 5 straight, West Coast 2 straight. The clock says 20 gone, but we can tell you that there's 4.5 remaining.
Amon got the crumb from the ball up, used his right boot to kick out wide. Looking for Kazitsky. Jones did it nicely off the pack. Now Hoff. Hoff kicks it high. Up goes Weddle. Well, he's doing it at both ends. Josh Weddle, and then spreads it to the run of the Hawks to Mitchell. Now Mitchell takes the mark, needs a shepherd from somewhere. Bramble's close proximity. He gives it to Bramble. He's got to kick with his left boot. He kicks inside 50, hoping for a Reeves mark. Nothing doing when a free kick will go to Bazzo. Just got himself in front, young Rhett Bazzo. Did it nicely. And then the little kick is okay to Rotham at half-back. And West Coast looking for answers. They kicked a couple of goals. They've looked all right on occasion. So the kick from Rotham is just a real nothing up and under, but Allen right in front of the interchange gates takes the mark. He's pushed a long way from goal. Looks for Waterman. That's a terrific kick. And Waterman takes the mark right down below us. Andrew would have a wonderful view of that. And in short, West can't take the mark. It's a 2-on-1, to be honest. Here's Frost. This way, that way. Little handball underground goes to Weddle. His handball to Sicily. Sicily goes to Bramble. Bramble says, I'm kicking him a right boot. And it might work out okay. No, it doesn't to Bruce. It just trickles out of play. Boundary throw-in. We know it's about 26, 27 minutes gone in the first term. Hawthorn 5 straight 30. West Coast 2 straight 12.
Waterman's previous kick was a great one. Got it, wheeled around, kicked it on inside 50, put them under pressure. But that one, just trying to create something that wasn't there. Had the opportunity to get it deep, but didn't take it.
Meek won the tap. Nash gathered the footy, was immediately tackled. He was pinged holding the ball, in fact. West Coast come away with it as advantage is called. Now Dom Sheets, short ball to Waterman, who's getting involved. Marks it right half forward, goes short over the top to a teammate in Gaff. He's 55 from goal. Lateral kick now from Gaff to Jermaine Jones, who has some time and space on the outer side. Inside 50 go the Eagles. Jamison direction, couldn't bring it down on the second bite. Hawks will come up with it in the back pocket. Handball from Amon over the top to Weddle. He shared it with Impey. Had some time to consider his next target, and it was good. Brockman marks just back of a wing, outer side for the Hawks. He's forced to just stop and assess his options. Spots a free player at right half forward in Reeves. He marks, and Hawthorn move it dutifully forward again to Nash at right half forward, and An uncontested ball taken by Kazitsky in the right forward pocket. All a little easy for Hawthorn out of defence on that occasion, Mick Malthouse.
Well, they got caught out, West Coast, really all the way down the ground. They were one man short of Hawthorn's numbers virtually right through, and this is the outcome. The ball was lost because Waterman moved the ball too slowly for a start-off, and then the mark was dropped in the forward pocket. From there on in, it was a chase by West Coast trying to pick up the extra player. Couldn't get it in the end, and now a shot for goal.
So Kazitsky from about 45 metres out on a pretty tight angle lets fly on the outer side of the ground and misses to the near side. So first blemish for the Hawks, who are 5-1-31 leading West Coast 2 straight 12. A minute 47 remaining in this first term.
And Waterman had Allen with a one-on-one with blank too, and decided to go to the young Jamison just a few moments ago too. Back in play now, taken by Weddle. Geez, having some sort of a first quarter. Weddle, he's everywhere. Handball back to Frost. So it's on the wing, on the grandstand side, on this broadcast side. Fed back to Blank, who gives it to Impey. Now they want to switch to the outer side. So at half back, just outside of his defensive 50, is Nash. He's got nothing really to kick to, so he waits for Frost to create some space and goes in short. So Frost at half back. On the outer side for Hawthorn. Goes in short. The kick to Nash is not a good one, but he runs onto it. Nash now with a high kick, and up goes Kazitsky and takes the mark. Well, that's something he hasn't been able to do in his previous matches before he was eased back to Box Hill, but he really had a good run and jump at that. Nice grab. He'll kick from about 45 out, slight angle.
It's poor defending by the Eagles. You've at least got to get an arm across. You've got to be touching the guy, jumping up inside 50, going for that mark. And the fact that it was, in the end, it was pretty much an uncontested mark. There's just no physical pressure on their key forwards.
You take Barras out of there, and McGovern, you lose two big players.
Here's Kazitsky, missed the last one, gets this one. The Hawks get a sixth, and they move away by 25 points. Hawthorn 6 goals, 137. West Coast 2 straight 12, getting really close to the end of the quarter, but you wouldn't know it because it's the time clock is stuck on 20 minutes.
I reckon it's about 20 seconds to go. Just off the top of my head. We'll see if I'm right.
I reckon it's 19.
Give or take a second. But one thing the Eagles do, and we'll talk about during the break soon, they defend this ground really well. They don't play any man
Hawthorn.
Hawthorn.
Yeah,
Hawthorn. They defend this ground really well. There's no one-on-one anywhere. They just do a full-on 18-person zone, and they make it really tough for Eagles to get it through. And if they don't have the opportunity to go really fast, then they've got to go slow. It's just really makes it really tough. So it's fast or nothing really.
Dying embers of the first term here in Launceston. Ruxco out at Reeves, straight down to Newcomb. He was held off the footy. She just got rid of him, and he didn't have possession of the football. As the clock counts down, immediately they go forward, the Hawks, via the boot of Newcomb, and presenting strongly was Mitch Lewis, who marks in front of his eyes like a classical full forward. He'll kick for goal directly in front after the siren from about 38 metres out. To pile on the pain and to extend the margin to 31 points at the first change. Mitch Lewis. Deliberate approach. And he comes, leans back, pops it through. So Hawthorn, 7-1-43, the end of the first term, lead West Coast 2 straight 12, a 31-point advantage to the Hawks. Mick Malthouse and Nathan Burke.
Well, Burke, it was first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, both sides were up and about. It hadn't gone into West Coast forward line that often, but they seemed to be able to defend the ball reasonably well. And then Hawthorn seemed to get the game going, took width when they had to, corridor when they needed to, marking power forward, and the exit by the Eagles. When you lose, as I said, when you lose key players from the back line, McGovern in particular, Barras, who's just a very tight type of player, it's left to a lot of kids, and unfortunately the delivery out of the back line presented Hawthorn with multiple opportunities, and the stoppages. Reeves is 210 centimetres. Their next ruckman down is Meek, 203 centimetres. They're getting their hands to it first, it's a real tough job to see if they can stop those stoppages going Hawthorn's way. And the Eagles have been good at times, but then have struggled for, like that last one, for instance, it was taken away too quickly and goes to a full forward who's a very, very talented one and kicks a goal.
Yeah, I was looking, with 5 minutes to go, it was 4-2.
Yeah.
And I thought, if the Eagles hang on here the last 5 minutes and go in 2 goals down, that's a really good quarter. But here they are, 5 goals down.
So Hawthorn 7-1-43, West Coast 2 straight 12. It's the Hawks by 31 points at the end of the first term here in Launceston. We'll take a short break from York Park and be back after this.
Why get your news from the ABC News app?
Well, it's part of my daily routine.
I check it on my phone when I stop for a break.
I can focus on local, national or world news. It's my choice.
I get an alert when something new comes in.
Love the live blogs. Follow them all day.
There's more than just headline stories, you know.
It's news that makes a difference.
Why do I get my news from the ABC News app?
I trust it.
I trust ABC News Online.
And it's free.
It's free.
For free news you can trust, download the ABC News app.
This is the Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
On your radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app.
Sheed, nice handball away, nice kick there by Jones. It's a good kick and he's popped it through. Jermaine Jones gets the first goal of this clash in Indigenous round, Sir Doug Nicholls round.
Meat got to the front, won the tap, knocked over the head of Nash, just tried to get it forward. Bursting through was Brockman. Found himself some time and some space, and the right foot finish was absolutely exquisite. Bruce in best position, couldn't get a handle on the footy, went in again, might have got a high tackle from Jinby, umpire said he did. Sends it on its way, it looks good. Luke Bruce kicks Hawthorn's third goal, his first of the afternoon.
Amon kicks in short, looking for Reeves, but he slipped over. Ball just trickles all the way through to the opposing back pocket. Little kick by Edwards, not a good one. Weddle's kick one, lines him up and boots a second.
The 2023 Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Yes, 7-2 first term by Hawthorn has the Hawks 31 points to the good at the first change here in Launceston. Some goal kickers for you. Josh Weddle has 2 for the Hawks. Brockman 1. Singles to Kazitsky, Bruce and Moore also. Mitch Lewis also kicked a goal after the siren to extend that lead. For West Coast, Dom Sheed has a goal, as does Jermaine Jones, who kicked the first goal of the game. Round 10 continues. So Doug Nicholls round here in Launceston. From here, we'll be off to a blockbuster at the MCG between Carlton and Collingwood. A must-win for the Blues as the Collingwood Football Club continues to steam forward in 2023. Players breaking from their quarter-time huddles, making their way out into their positions. Nathan Burke, your thoughts and observations ahead of this second term?
Well, the wind did pick up in the second half of that quarter, no doubt about that at all. A couple of the kicks for West Coast Eagles really dropped short, so hopefully they can capitalise on that and get back in touch by half-time. The key to doing that is, one, they've got to win the stoppages, get the ball going their way early, don't allow Hawthorn to actually set up their really good zone that they have throughout the ground, and whenever they have the opportunity to move the ball quickly, they have to take it. In that first quarter, there was times when they did and times when they didn't. If I'm Simo, I'm saying, guys, if you get the opportunity to roll and go, I want you to roll and go. If we get the opportunity to move the ball through the middle of the ground, take that and away you go, because it's the only way you're going to get the ball from one end of the other ground to the other quickly through that Hawthorn zone.
Just about all set to go. The resumption of the second quarter. That breeze starting to swirl as we see the flags around York Park here move in the breeze, probably favouring the Invermay side of the ground, the side in which Hawthorn kicked to in that first term. But the ball is held aloft, and Michael Maney will take us away for the second term here in Launceston. Hawthorn and West Coast.
Hawthorn win its 6th first quarter of the season, and they've only won 11 quarters all through the whole season so far. Up goes Meek. Ball still in the centre square. Newcomb caught by Kelly, and also Petrocelli in there. And a stalemate, the umpire will ball it up.
Kelly's had 1 and 5. He's just got to get the ball, kick the ball. He kicks it so beautifully.
This hasn't quite been the player he was at Geelong, has he, since he's gone to West Coast?
He's had he's had one really good year. I just think he's been deserted by a lot of good players around him, so it's left a lot up to him.
Yeah, he's been a real soldier in there, though. So free kick in the ruck, infringement's going to Meek. So Hunt was about to dash off with it, so the big man, it's a handball away to Sicily. Sicily goes inside 50. Mitch Lewis takes the mark. A big pack mark by Lewis. And he'll shoot from about 35 metres out, almost directly in front.
Well, they can do that, Hawthorn. Big long kicks in there because they've got good marking players. Kaczynski, you mentioned before, Lewis jumps at it. You look down the other end, it's only Oscar Allen, and Waterman's not a massively big mark. But the secret here, even against the wind, was nothing there. So ponk it in there and see what happens.
30 metres out, Lewis. Kick one. It's working its way back, but not far enough. So the Hawks, 7 goals 2, 44. West Coast, 2 straight 12.
He's gunning for back-to-back goals, Mitch Lewis. Kicked one after the siren to end the first term, is withered and brings it out for West Coast to kick straight up the guts of York Park, and he finds a target in Bailey Williams. His short ball is good to Gaff, who's inside the centre square. He goes laterally.
Why would he look laterally? And now they're locked in and hope. Now the ball is straight back where Gaff was before. And now they're further behind. I'm sorry, but it just drives you nuts.
That kick out from fullback. Okay, the first point we're just going to go long, straight down the guts to get the ball long down the guts. Now they've had 5 possessions and gone 10 metres backwards.
It was Rotham and Duggan, and then Edwards, and now back to Duggan, and he goes towards left half forward for the Eagles. Off hands, Hunt emerged with it. He was tackled and had it stripped. It came out to Warple, who gave it to Lewis a long way up the ground. Fed it back to Sicily, who stops and props and has a bit of a look. Bites something off inboard. The target was Brockman, but it was too small as Duggan got over the back. He was called to play on, and Brockman sprung to his feet and tackled him. Good enough to get away the disposal to Jones. He used Petruccelli and kept on running, received it back, went to left half forward. Was looking for Waterman, but it was knocked away from him. Out of bounds for a boundary throw-in, 70 metres out from West Coast goal, broadcast side. Hawthorn 7-2-44, lead West Coast, 2 straight 12, 32 points the margin. Early stages in this second term. Boundary throw-in now. In it comes. Rux, jostle, Williams got to the front, roved his own tap, did really well to get boots the ball and send the Eagles inside 50. A pair of Hawks in defence, they both miss it. It eludes everyone and trickles out of bounds in the left forward pocket for West Coast as Jamison makes his way back to his mark. We'll have a boundary throw in 10 metres around from the left hand behind post, West Coast attacking zone.
Williams has done very, very well against taller opponents. Really good follow-up work.
Jamison in the ruck with Meek. Meek knocks it down. Hardwick got in the way and is tackled by a couple of Eagles, and another ball up. It's about 40 metres out from West Coast goal. They're kicking to the Invermay end of the ground, and they just trying to get themselves untangled on the ground. Hardwick doesn't want to release the grip that he had on Petruccelli. So up it goes. Meek knocks it down. Oh, Petruccelli just roved it beautifully, got dumped with a tackle. In goes Ginby. Little handball comes out to Sheed. This way, that way, now to West. He ducks around, just loses possession, and now it's taken by Frost, who gets clear. Little handball away to Impey. He can't collect. Well done by Jamison to keep going. Waterman back to Jones. Jones kicks it long. He's hoping for an Oscar Allen mark, and he takes it.
Great mark.
Well, I reckon if you're in doubt, go long to this bloke, because he'll take a grab for you. And we know he's kicked multiple goals every single game he's performed this year for the Eagles, and he'll kick this from about 5 metres out directly in front.
Well, just good play, get the ball. A lot of scrappy stuff early, wrong hand passes, put player under pressure until they found one and got the ball into a play and can mark it.
Allen, point blank range, kicks the goal. So the Eagles get a third. They're 3 straight 18. They trail Hawthorn 7-2-44. 5 minutes gone in the second term here at York Park.
Well, Berkey, overuse with the hand pass. Perhaps a couple of players try to find a bit of space, couldn't find it, then had to lay off the hand pass. At least they didn't lose the ball. I guess that was the secret to it. even they have to go outside 50 to get that ball back in there. But we talk about lessons. The lesson from Gaff was, why did you go lateral? He's a senior player and I know he's been around for a long time. That was their old game plan, but it's not now. And then you look at Oscar Allen, who could outmark most players in the competition. Why let him sit and freeze in the goal square? Use him.
West Coast get one back. Early stages of the second term. Hawthorn 7-2-44 lead the Eagles 3 straight 18. Back in the middle, wonky old bounce. Umpire says play on. Warple emerges with it. Thought about the handball, but had more space than he realised. Release Mitchell off half back. Give and go. Now it's McKenzie at right half forward. The seas part for him and he fires on goal. It might have got all the way. Crowd likes it. Umpire likes it. Hawthorn with the instant reply via the boot of Cam McKenzie. A wonderful running goal. And the Hawks have their 8th. 8-2-50 Hawthorn. West Coast 3 straight 18. 6.5 gone. Second term grandstand AFL. Nathan Burke.
I'm going to jump in, Burke, for 1 second. Because it's going to annoy the hell out of me, this. Yeah, it was a wonderful goal. It was the worst bounce in history.
Yeah.
To a ruckman who couldn't contest it.
I thought the rule was...
The rule is they've got to be able to contest it. That is a free goal to Hawthorn.
Yeah, it should have been recalled. It bounced directly the Hawthorn way. It's not as if the West Coast ruck gave up on it. He ran at it as hard as he could and fell 2 metres short. So I think the umpires, if they have to recall one, you might get a $5 fine from the other umpires, and this one's a bit of a tight wide and didn't want to recall it and cough up his $5.
4 different personalities out there with 4 different thought processes. Up the next bounce goes and it's perfect. In goes Jamison. He's ridden to ground by Newcomb, so it's still in the centre square.
He's competing hard, Jamison. He's not a ruck. He's a forward. He's as skinny as a rake, but he earns himself a free kick here. Well done. Don't umpire.
Yeah, and he decided to...
This umpire has made 2 dreadful errors.
Yeah, he decided to pay the advantage, and then Hunt became unstuck. Here's Bramble, kicks inside 50. Up they go. Jones takes the mark, uncontested in the end. Bit of blocking by the Eagles to allow that to happen. So Jones goes in short and finds Sheed. Back to Jones, who just kept on running. He kicks to the wing, but Blank gets in front of Allen. Thought about the handball and then decides to feed it back by foot and finds Sicily on the wing, grandstand side.
The preferred user in this Hawthorn setup. He's got it right on centre wing. On the broadcast side, he's just having a look around. He's looking left, he's looking right. Eventually he goes backwards to Seamus Mitchell.
Wonder what he thinks of Launceston today. They haven't booed him yet.
That's
his comments going back a few weeks ago.
And Tasmanians do have long memories, so maybe they've forgiven James Sicily as the ball moves out wide now for the Hawks. Weddle, what a game he's putting together. He shakes and bakes and has a bounce on the outer side. Goes by hand to Amon. His left foot ball inside 50 for the Hawks. 2-on-1. Nobody able to take the mark. Mitch Lewis took it on the bounce. Jimby tried to bust through. There's a free kick here. He might have been pinned for holding the ball. Luke Foley will come up with it.
I think Weddle's only 18. He's a gun. 19 yet.
He's going to be an absolute gun.
Witherden received the handball around the back and exits defensive 50 for the Eagles off the hands of Weddle. Frost does the roving, got it to Sicily. His handball went to 3 Eagles players. Eventually it was Chesser who got the kick away, bumped off it as he did. Fortuitous bounce out there though for Edwards, who was tackled as he took the footy. Got it off to a teammate in Williams. Now West Coast go inside 50 and Blank takes a really good defensive one-on-one mark. It's going to be called back and Blank will take his kick 30 metres out from his defensive goal square.
Windsock's standing straight horizontal now, so there's a fair advantage to the Eagles if they can move the ball quick, and I know he's outmarked that time, Allen, but you've got to use him.
Well, the little kick by Newcomb just had a bit too much hang time for Warple, and the Eagles were able to close it in. They're just inside their attacking 50, close to the boundary line. Hunt, he can't get through. A lot of players around this. Warple desperate to make up for dropping that mark a second or two ago. Bramble gets it to Amon, and a real ugly passage of play ends with a ball in. We've gone almost 10 minutes second quarter. 8-2-50 Hawthorn. West Coast 3 straight 18, but the Eagles are in attack. That was not the best, but a ball in. Eagles with an opportunity. They've kicked a goal in this term. Oscar Allen, his first. They're the advantage of a breeze. Williams in front. Reeves knocked it down. Newcomb released the hands to Weddle. Weddle's kick might turn it over to Ginby. Got a kind bounce. Bruce with a nice tackle dispossesses him, and the ball trickles back out of play just outside the 50. Or is there a free kick?
He paid holding the ball.
Holding the ball, did he? He was sort of blindsided at myself from that, but I think it's Bruce has got the free kick.
It's from right where the boundary line meets the 50. He goes inboard to Sicily, who scans ahead. Eventually he goes short to Bramble, to exactly where Bruce started the chain. His short ball is good to Newcomb, who marks in front of Sheed. He's going to go across the ground as he spies something he likes in the opposing back pocket. It's Blake Hardwick, who marks uncontested, and they move it around the outer side. Weddle, another possession, releases Mitchell. He's on the outer side and takes a bounce on the outer wing. Short ball is good to Lewis, who marks 80 metres out from goal. Turns and looks inside 50 and drives Hawthorn long. Pat forms. Reeves couldn't bring it down. Offhand Butler. His handball was chopped off. Jermaine Jones is there, tackled strongly by Butler, who followed up. We'll have a ball up in the left forward pocket for Hawthorn, who lead 8-2-50 to West Coast, 3 straight 18.
Oh, he's hit his head in the tackle on the ground. It wasn't a untoward, driven, slung, rotated, but he did have both arms pinned and went down horizontal, but I think it's a bit of a head onto the ground.
Yeah, so broke his nose last week.
2 trainers getting out, or 3 trainers make that, getting out to Jermaine Jones, who's just emerging very, very gingerly.
Got the wobbly boots on.
Making his way very, very slowly from the ground now. There was nothing too offensive about that
nothing
tackle.
at all, really.
Sam Butler wrapped him up and did everything right. It was just awkward as he brought him down, and
I'm not sure whether he's got a bit of a limp.
He's got a limp, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Might be an ankle or a lower leg. We'll get down to Andrew Cooling shortly when Jermaine Jones makes his way to the bench. He'll be able to cast his eye over things and see what the situation is, but he's making his way from the ground very, very slowly, definitely with a limp.
Yeah. It's a shame too, he's been a good player so far. Kicked the first goal and provided a lot of spark and run out of that back line. They'll miss him if he can't come back on.
And Greg Clark, the sub for West Coast, is doing some leg swing throughs and some general warm-ups boundary side as well. As we get back underway in the left forward pocket, Day couldn't take it off the tap. It spills back out of bounds for another boundary throw in, 25 metres around from Hawthorn's left hand behind post. Decent crowd in this afternoon in Launceston. Nice brisk Tasmanian day. In it comes Jamison, took it straight out of the ruck, got boots a ball and hit a target in the centre square of the ground.
Had the chance to play on with the hand pass, should have done it.
Long kicks forward for the West Coast Eagles, but it's intercepted by Blake Hardwick in defence for the Hawks.
Now Sicily has got a man in short. Bramble come to the broadcast side of the ground. He's still at half back and then decides, no, I'll go laterally. I'll go back to Hardwick. So a little bit of space opens up. So Hardwick's got a man in plenty of space, and that's Lewis, but the kick can't find him. Hitting in the way was Foley. Couldn't take the mark. Just a little fumble. And the Hardwick kick just died on its way to Lewis. And the Eagles do pretty well to bottle it up.
The Hawthorn players playing an extra behind the ball. As soon as the ball moves, they get in behind Oscar Allen, so it makes 2-on-1. The Eagles haven't worked it out yet. They've just got to lower their eyes, pick an easier target in front of them. I know we say kick long, but also you've got to kick smart.
I keep thinking the Eagles have got a player forward, one out the back, but it's actually an umpire wearing blue.
Yeah.
Who decided the umpire should wear blue in an Eagles game? I'm not too sure.
It's an interesting one. So a free kick for holding the ball is going to Nash.
We thought red or green might have been a
been smarter, you reckon?
choice.
Smarter? Even the umpires in white would have been.
Exactly.
Yeah, where are those days gone? Nash kicks long. Lewis in the middle of the pack. Can't take the mark. Who's got the crumb? Amon. Kick smothered. Moore and Foley go hard at it. Umpire says, give it to me. It's in the left forward pocket. Hawthorn in attack, and they lead by 32 points.
The last 3 or 4 high kicks, the Eagles defenders have done really well. Haven't let the Hawks get a run and jump at it.
Reeves won the tap decisively. Nash got rid of his man, just palmed it into the path of Day. Kick around the body. Mark was spilt in the goal square. Eventually it trickles through. So out of the congestion, off the boot of, I think it might have been Seamus Mitchell. He's going to be credited with a goal here for the Hawks, and amidst the confusion, Hawthorn pile on another. They have their 9th, 9-2-56. West Coast 3 straight 18, 15 and a half gone. Second term for Grandstand AFL. Andrew Cooling's on the boundary.
Yeah, Jarmaine Jones just in front of him at the moment appears to be in some serious distress with a left ankle. The doctor currently just prodding at it a little bit, and a very pained expression on his face. I'd say pretty unlikely to continue at this stage. Greg Clark warming up, but I'll get confirmation on that soon. But the ankle looks in pretty bad shape. It
was Sam Butler flashing through with a little toe poke out of the pack, and Sam Butler kicks the Hawks' 9th goal of the afternoon. So 9-2-56 the Hawks, West Coast 3 straight 18. Back in the middle we go.
Butler, his first of the afternoon. Back in the centre, Jamison goes again at it in the ruck. Warple, that was a throw. Tried to throw it out of there, James Warple. Kelly working hard for the Eagles, then got it out and released Ginby. Ginby just tried to tap it on. Mackenzie couldn't keep his feet. O'Neill, little handball out there to Bruff. So here he goes, Hoffs, I should say. He kicks off the instep, not a good kick. Now taken by Hardwick. Hardwick under pressure, released the handball away to Amon. So Amon's nice little kick finds Meek. He goes in short to Mackenzie, takes the mark. Now this is Mitchell. Mitchell with a stabbing kick looking for Mitch Lewis, and it just trickles out of play. Lewis couldn't get down far enough. It will be a ball in.
The foot. Looked like it to me.
Well,
pretty good angle here.
I'll stand corrected, but I think that was out by a foot.
So, boundary throw in. Hawks slightly in attack. The main grandstand side of the ground. Reeves knocked it down. Warple now to Mackenzie. Mackenzie's up and under kick. I reckon it's gone 15 if someone can mark it. Bruce there for the crumb. Well done by Nash. Fed the handball out the back of the stoppage to Warple, who's gang tackled. Now Amon pushes off. Little half distance little handball falls to West. West gets it away to a teammate who's absolutely nailed in the tackle, and that might have been O'Neill or Foley. So Foley, the man, the indiscretion, and the free kick goes to Sicily.
Sicily sends Hawthorn inside 50. Mitch Lewis direction, unable to take the mark. Offhands Edwards. Mackenzie emerged with it, feigned the kick, then got the handball off, but it was picked off by Bazzo. Frost intercepted the scrubber ball outside of defensive 50. Ended up with Lewis at right half forward, but his kick was wayward, and it's taken in the forward pocket by Foley.
That's because O'Neill's not a fast runner, because it was O'Neill just a few moments ago, Chris.
Foley gets around the man on the mark and sends West Coast beyond defensive 50, eludes everybody. Eventually Reeves takes it on the bounce, is swung in the tackle. Impey arrives. Petruccelli has the footy. He's mobbed. And we'll have a ball up right in front of our broadcast position.
West Coast have also lost their forward line structure, so even if they win, they're back now, but you've got to hold your structure, otherwise you can't score.
Reeves, high ball out of the ruck to right half forward. Pack forms. Nash unable to get away. He's tackled by a pair of Eagles as Duggan and Petruccelli emerge from the bottom of the pack. We'll have another ball up just forward of centre wing broadcast side for the Hawks. Reeves decisively got it to the outside where Amon gathered, was tackled, got the handball away to Mackenzie. Here's Butler. Can he kick a second in a row? Streaming in on goal. Had the man over the top. Easy handball. Easy finish. Kazitsky with the right foot check side. He kicks a second, and Hawthorn have a 10th. 10-2-62 the Hawks. West Coast 3 straight 18. 19 and a half gone. Second term for Grandstand AFL. Mick Moldhouse. It's starting to get a little ugly for West Coast.
Well, it is ugly. There's no question. Nearly every stoppage, you can't grow inches on a football ground. The Hawthorn ruckmen are considerably taller. They're battling. West Coast are battling against that height. First hand is certainly going. The first quarter was Reeve had 17. The closest to him was Williams at 7 tap outs, and most of those ones of Reeves were really, they were quite decisive, so they were going in a position that gave Hawthorn a really good runner. It's even got better this quarter. I haven't checked the stats yet, but they are dominating the ruck work. They're dominating the stoppages. I've got a feeling Oscar Allen's been wasted at full 40s. He should now be coming out to centre half forward. He can create play, he can mark the ball, come off the back line as opposed to where he's at the moment.
44 points the margin in favour of Hawthorn. Secondary ball up after The last one was okay. They all just dived on it. Reeves down to Warple, who gets a real just shinned it forward, really. In comes Bruce. A lot of players around him. Hands and knees. Got it to Moore. Too high. Umpire said you ducked your head. He does tend to do that, Dylan Moore. Here's Warple. Now Hoff can't get through. Messy bit of play. Flicks out the back to Impey now. Impey just tried to paddle it away to Moore. Moore got a handball looking for Mitchell of Hawthorn. They're all snagged by West. So West on the outer side wing has a couple of bounces. What's he got in front of him? He's got a handball to Oscar Allen and it just floats out of play. Or was he dealt with after he'd handball it and it's downfield free to Oscar Allen?
Well, Eagles have got to start getting their players back inside because they keep going backwards.
Well, they've put Waterman as a loose man in defence.
Why? When you got the wind.
And it was that man, Waterman, whose kick inside 50 to a pair of Eagles was unable to be taken. Day there, battling hard for the Hawks. Connor West went in and laid the tackle. So they force a stoppage 40 metres out from their goal, the West Coast. They're desperately searching for a fourth.
No offence to Waterman, but James Sicily is going to be a better loose man than him, and that's what's created. Waterman is now the deepest defender for the Eagles, and Sicily's just standing right in this hole here.
Kelly off the stoppage, handed it to Gaff, wheeled around and put West Coast deep inside 50. It's all Hawthorn in defence though, as Hardwick got it to Bramble. His exiting kick is a beauty to Weddle, and he marks it right half back for the Hawks. So Weddle, first rounder for the Hawks last year, plays on and goes over the top by hand to Sicily, gets himself into a bit of trouble. They've made a bit of a mess of this Hawthorn. The handball to Bramble and then to Warple, who tried to take on the tackler. Petrocelli run him down and he's been pinged for holding the ball, and they made hard work of a pretty easy situation, the Hawks. They hand it back over to the Eagles, just in front of centre wing.
And they're one man short in the air, the Eagles, so this is going to be just a happy, it's like a lucky dip.
Petrocelli inside 50, but all Hawthorn as Reeves stands tall and takes an easy, uncontested defensive mark.
Boots it out wide to the outer side. Moore takes the mark. The handball fed away to Hardwick. Hardwick's handball over the top to Nash. Nash decides on another handball. So away they go. Cam McKenzie just rolling on the outer side wing. Draws a player. Gets it to Meek. Back to McKenzie by hand. McKenzie over the top to Brockman. Brockman just with a little piercing kick finds Brust. And you can hear the crowd call Brust. Andrew?
Yeah, Jermaine Jones about to be subbed out of the game. He had his ankle heavily strapped, walked along the boundary line trying to put some weight on it, immediately shook his head. Greg Clark with the jacket off, about to be introduced.
Greg Clark about to come on. Thanks, Andrew, for that. It was almost their best player, Jones. Here's Bruce around the corner. Goal umpire has to do a bit of work and he misses. Doesn't miss those too often, but that's a fair distance out. Hawthorn 10-3, 63, West Coast 3 straight 18.
Well, Berkey, the loose player is useless because Hawthorn are running the ball up and over him.
Yep. I was watching Waterman and he just didn't know where to go, and in the end he was just one of those witches' hats that they handballed over the top of.
Duggan got good purchase with the kick in, but it was Frost who took the defensive mark for Hawthorn. His kick inside 50, just over the head of McKenzie. Coming away with it was Edwards for West Coast, but his kick to Gaff was an absolute shocker. It was straight into the path of Weddle, and he used Frost, who used Bramble, and he marks right in front of where Andrew Cooling's standing on the broadcast side boundary. Cuts inboard now, does Bramble, and goes inside 50 in the Reeves direction. Offhands Kaczynski. Somehow got it to Butler, who was running on goal. He was tackled at the last moment. Kick was affected, and a minor score only for the Hawks, who add to the tally. 10-4, 64 Hawthorn. West Coast 3 straight 18, 24 and a smidge gone in this second term.
The problem is that the Eagles are kicking with a wind, and they've got Noah Long as their deepest forward. So when they do look up and get it out the back, they don't want to kick it to him against two tall Hawthorn defenders.
Well, Duggan played on from fullback, and the kick to the wing was dropped by Williams. The mark was dropped. Kelly, nice quick hands, but it's all Hawthorn here. In goes Blank, did a little blind turn, then the handball back inboard finds Impey. That was a sharp handball to McKenzie, now to Day. Day's got more and a bit of space right in the centre square, a little bit forward of it. The little short kick hits up Brockman. Brockman back to Moore. Moore goes inside 50 with a kick that's ill-directed. And Dom Sheed gets back and said, well, hang on, come on, we're coming across this side of the ground.
14 Eagle players in that back 50 then.
And they're all just standing still with their arm up in the air calling for it.
Sheed goes to the Williams-Meek battle. Flicks over the back to West. He's caught by Blank. Nailed in the tackle. Ball up. We've gone 25 in the second term. It hasn't been one for the ages this second term. 10-4-64 Hawthorn. The West Coast have only booted 1 goal in this term. They are 3 straight, 18.
Up it goes. Williams won it down. Boundary line eludes all comers though, and over it goes for a boundary throw-in as Greg Clark prepares to make his way onto the ground. Sub-activated for West Coast. Jermaine Jones out with what appears to be an injury to his lower leg. A shame too, because he was looking pretty good early doors for the Eagles. Off the ruck tap, Amon in space, gathers the footy. He brushed the tackle. In fact, he was given holding the ball. It was knocked out of his possession, and Xavier O'Neill will be rewarded.
I think the Eagles have just got to go back to 7 goals down. Go back to a legitimate 6-6 forward line and make your midfielders work. And whatever you get, at least you know you're going forward with an even competition. At the moment, this is multiple possessions going nowhere.
Sheed up to 17 now as he plays a bit of kick-to-kick with Jake Waterman, who has been deployed into defence. Eventually Sheed goes up the line, but it's easily dealt with by the Hawks defenders, who spike it out of bounds for a boundary throw-in right in front of the Hawthorn interchange bench, where Connor Nash signals that he's ready to come on. 10-4-64, the Hawks lead the Eagles 3 straight, 18. 26 and a half gone. Shadows of half-time. In it comes. Reeves gets to the front, wins it down. Warple and Ginby. Ginby won the footy. His handball's affected. Big tackle laid on by Warple. It was too high. A little vigorous from...
So they can't play on the Eagles because they're outnumbered forward to the ball. They can only go backwards. Waterman's not making any movement. He's the free man. He should be now trying to get involved in the play.
O'Neill with the free kick, kicks to right half forward. It straddles the boundary. Allen had hands to the footy. He juggled it over the line, so it'll be another boundary throw in. 60 metres out from West Coast goal.
So, what have we gone? Around about 27 and a half. The Hawks 3-1 in this term. Boundary throw in. Eagles just outside their attacking 50. Up it goes. Meek and Williams. Comes to Butler of Hawthorn. Dispossessed. Long. Beautiful handball away to Sheed. Wants his left. Good looking kick. Goes long. That's an amazing kick by Sheed. Terrific kick. From almost the paint of 50, Dom Sheed. And West Coast get a 4th.
Yeah.
They are 4 straight, 24. Hawthorn 10-4-64.
I reckon it certainly come from the stoppage, and I really credit Williams. His efforts today, he's been beaten generally because the ruckman against him are much bigger, but his big heart put that ball in I'll have to recheck it, but I reckon he put it in the right spot, and Dom Sheed is a very smart player, knows where to get, and he's a great finisher, as most Collingwood supporters would know.
Bailey Williams from my junior club down there in Frankston. So played all my junior football with his dad. He was a big-hearted player.
Did he wear your number, you reckon?
No.
With his duffel coat? He would have had your number as his duffel coat. Of course he would, Berkey. Everyone loved Berkey.
His dad played a few games for Carlton. Was on St Kilda's list for a little while. Played a couple of games with the Blues. Was a legend down on the Mornington Peninsula.
We've had a recount called bounce here, boys. So up it goes again as Warple tried to break through about 4 tacklers. He was pinned for holding the ball, and Warple has been on the
he should get 50
wrong end
metres.
of a few free kicks here.
50 metres every day of the week.
John Newcombe and Callum Jamieson just tangle in the middle of York Park. They take their time to get up, and Dom Sheed will take the free kick. This will be possession number 19 as he goes lateral to Jake Waterman, back in defence. His kick is well measured to Hunt, who marks in front of the interchange benches near side. So Jaden Hunt, dying stages of the first half, back to Waterman. He's going to enjoy himself back there, I think. Jake Waterman get a lot of the ball. I'm not sure if he's going to be overly productive, but seeing a lot of footy as he goes back to Hunt. Short ball now to Duggan. They've progressed at 15 metres in a minute. Duggan now will get things moving. Left foot ball inside 50, but straight down the throat of James Sicily, who marks and marks easily. inside defensive 50 for the Hawks.
Well, that's compared to Waterman at the other end, the chip, or intercept mark and get the ball going back the other way. I dare say James Sicily, if you're going to put a spare player anywhere, put someone stand next to him. He'll take you to where the footy is.
Little short kick found Nash, and Nash kicks to the wing on this side of the ground, and it trickles out of play. 30.5 minutes gone in the second term. We've had 5. We had the Jermaine Jones injury that held us up for a little while.
We had a stack of throw-ins too.
Yeah.
Minute to go.
He's been subbed off, Jones. Clark on the ground for the Eagles. So back into play, and they both swing each other out of the way. I think this will be a free kick to Jamison.
He's
but it's
trying
not.
to make up his mind. I think Jamison was slung first. And then when he slung, he just hung on to Reeves just to save himself from getting thrown over the fence.
So Reeves with the free kick. Kicks to a pack situation. Meeks in the middle of it, and one grab two.
That's not a mark.
That's
not a mark. That is not a mark.
Taken now by Amon. Amon looks for Lewis, who's got a back, got a nudge from Waterman, and a free kick will go to Lewis.
He got the hat trick.
I don't know, those two guys that set up in the balcony of the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
Not saying you're Muppets, lads, but wow, it's just been one thing after the other.
Well, the game is deteriorated because the blokes in the Aqua have really botched a few up. That's the umpires I'm talking about.
Here's Lewis, the beneficiary of the free kick. It's booted one. From 30 out, directly in front, kicks another. Hawthorn get a fourth for the quarter. They move to 11.470. West Coast 4 straight. 24, 32 minutes gone, can you believe, in the second term.
Well, did you tell your players, Mick, if you make one mistake, don't compound it with another one. Get back on track. Well, I think the umpires made 3 in a row then.
Well, they did. Hasn't been a great display of umpiring. It's another comment, I suppose, or another time, Berkey, but we struggled to have 3 good ones on the ground in the last few years. We've had a couple of really good ones, and you throw a fourth one in, the consistency level starts to drop all over the shop.
Do you think if they look at the ladder positions, you go 17 versus 18, well, we're probably not going to throw our guns down in Tassie to do that one. We might have them at the MCG with Collingwood Carlton.
Well, yesterday for North Melbourne, they sat on the bench and gave that decision against North. Instead of keeping the game going for the game's sake and just warning them, listen, you're pretty close. No, we wait until you make the mistake. Then
final seconds of the first half here in Launceston. Hawthorn will win the centre clearance via the boot of Jarman Impey. Straight up and under and in the air. There's the siren. Hawthorn will take a 46-point half-time advantage into the second half. Hawthorn 11.470 lead West Coast. 4 straight 24, 17th versus 18th, and it has to be said, the game has been pretty befitting of those latter positions. Nathan Burke.
Yes, it's been a bit of a uneventful first half of football. I can't remember a great deal of highlights that we've actually seen. Some of the goals, I think the Hawks have probably got 4 goals handed to them just by simple mistakes. Even the second last one, it was just Harry Edwards dropping a chest mark in the goal square. They've given away free kicks, and it's handed 4 goals at least straight to the Hawks. And when you're battling to stay in the game for as long as you possibly can, it's you just can't afford to hand those free kicks over. And some baffling tactics there from the Eagles as well. It was pretty only much halfway through that quarter where they took one of their key forwards out and put him behind the ball. You're kicking with a wind, yet you've got a player loose behind the play, which just gave James Sicily licence to do whatever he wanted up the other end. And I haven't got the stats, but he would have had at least a dozen possessions for that quarter. I'll check up soon, but he just got in the way of everything that went down there. And what that made West Coast Eagles do was second guess themselves about whether they should go forward. And the only way they're going to win this game is to go forward, because when they go sideways, the Hawthorn zone is just set up so well that they can't go sideways and then forwards. So they look up, we're outnumbered, we need to maintain possession, we'll go sideways, we've gone sideways, now we can't go forward. So the only way to do that is to even up numbers in the forward line and tell your players through the middle that if it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, or even 4-on-4 inside 50, that will do us. We don't need to be outnumbered. At least make it even, and we'll back our players to either win the footy, bring it to ground, get a stoppage, and then who knows what can happen from there. So some really simple changes that the Eagles need to make. But for the Hawks they're just going along okay at the moment. They're not shooting the lights out, but you go in front 46 points up at half-time, well, you're doing something right.
Leading goal kickers and some major disposal winners for you. For Hawthorn, Jacob Kaczynski has 2, as does Mitch Lewis and Josh Weddle. Singles to Bruce, Butler, Brockman, McKenzie and Moore. For West Coast, Dom Sheed has 2, and singles to Oscar Allen and Jermaine Jones. Leading ball winners for the Hawks, James Sicily has 16 down in defence, Warple 15, Josh Weddle 14 disposals. 14 disposals and 2 goal first half for Josh Weddle is very impressive. McKenzie has 13, as does Nash. For West Coast, Dom Sheed has 19 to go with 2 goals in the first half. Jermaine Jones had 12. He's been subbed off for Greg Clark with a lower leg injury. Tim Kelly and Liam Duggan have 10 apiece. We might take a short break from here at York Park. It's Hawthorn 11-4-70 leading West Coast, 4 straight 24 at the main break. Let's go to the ABC newsroom.
ABC News with Satyam Weinstein. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has backed G7 leaders' calls for China to rein in its relentless ambition in the Indo-Pacific, arguing Australia's been subjected to Chinese aggression. Late yesterday, the leaders of the world's most advanced economies issued a joint statement calling out China's economic coercion and its massive military build-up in areas such as the South China Sea. Mr. Albanese says it matches Australia's own experiences being on the receiving end of some of Beijing's recent aggression.
We have said for some time that China's activity, and we've expressed concern for ourselves as well, the strafing of one of our aircraft, the other activity that we've seen has provided concern.
Russia's Ministry of Defense says the Wagner mercenary group has captured the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut after 8 months of bloody fighting. As the BBC's James Landale reports, the city has little inherent strategic value.
It is not a strategic hub, it doesn't hold any power plants, or it's not a transport hub, but both sides have chosen to make it a symbolic place where they are going to try and fight and hold as long as they can. The Russians, particularly the Wagner mercenary group, have chosen Bakhmut so they can at least claim they've won something. They can claim some kind of victory. Ukraine, for its side, has chosen to stand firm and defend Bakhmut simply for strategic reasons, to try and kill as many Russian and Wagner soldiers as possible.
Sudan's warring factions have agreed to a 7-day ceasefire as the violence there enters into its 6th week. Previous ceasefire agreements have quickly broken down. Fighting between the country's army and the paramilitary rapid support forces has led to a breakdown of law and order, with widespread looting of banks, aid warehouses, and even churches. The United States is set to sign new strategic agreements with the Pacific Island nations of Palau and Micronesia. A U.S. presidential envoy has been touring the region in a bid to shore up support from Pacific nations to counter Chinese influence. The deal with Palau will be signed at a meeting in Papua New Guinea on Monday, while the pact with Micronesia will be signed the following day in Micronesia. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says she wants to hear from Queenslanders about a plan to make kindergarten free as a cost of living measure. She says the move being considered for the upcoming state budget would affect around 65,000 children. Ms. Palaszczuk says the measure would have a big impact on families and not just on their back pocket.
What we're hearing from our prep teachers is that there is a big gap between those children who have had kindergarten and those that have not.
The search is continuing for a driver who allegedly left a woman dying on the side of the road in a hit and run in Melbourne's southeast. Nicholas Hines reports.
Police say they're confident they'll find the driver of a white van involved in the alleged hit and run in Noble Park about 7 o'clock last night. A 34-year-old Springvale woman suffered life-threatening injuries when she was hit by the van while crossing the road. Detective Sergeant Stephen Hill says it's shocking the driver fled the scene.
It beggars to believe why, but the driver of the van continued, leaving the 34-year-old female dying on the roadside until the ambulance arrived.
He says the van would have substantial damage on the front passenger side and has called on anyone with information to come forward.
According to the AFL licensing agreement, if the Hobart Stadium isn't ready by 2028, the Tasmanian government will have to foot an almost $5 million bill every year until it's done. Here's Isabella Podwinski.
Today, the state government released its signed agreement with the AFL to secure the 19th club licence, following promises to do so. The document outlines some requirements for the proposed stadium at Hobart's Macquarie Point. This includes a fenced oval, the equivalent size to the Melbourne Cricket Ground, as well as a separate indoor training area. The 23,000-seat stadium must have a clear roof, capacity for at least 1,500 corporate spaces, and accessible Wi-Fi and 5G services. The contract also sets out that if the stadium is not available to host a game by 2028, the state government will have to pay an additional $4.5 million per year for each year the stadium isn't ready.
And Japanese boxer Junto Nakatani has had a knockout win over Australia's Andrew Maloney in the WBO junior bantamweight world title fight in Las Vegas. You're up to date with the latest from ABC News.
With ABC Listen, explore a whole new world of podcasts and live radio. Like unpicking fast fashion in Veronica Milsom's podcast, Threads.
The marketing tricks being used on us right now.
Or learning to spend less and live better with Nazim Hussein's Pineapple Project.
Do we all really need it? And if we do, how do we get it for cheap?
The ABC Listen app.
A whole new world of live radio and on-demand audio entertainment.
Download it now from your app store. This is the Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
On your radio, Sport Digital and the ABC Listen app.
Jones kicks it long. He's hoping for an Oscar Allen mark, and he takes it.
Great mark.
Well, I reckon if you're in doubt, go long to this bloke. Allen, point-blank range, kicks the goal. So the Eagles get a third.
Mitchell off half-back, give and go. Now it's McKenzie at right half-forward. The seas part for him, and he fires on goal. It might have got all the way. Crowd likes it, umpire likes it. Hawthorn with the instant reply via the boot of Cam McKenzie. Handball was chopped off. Jermaine Jones is there, tackled strongly by Butler, who followed up. Three trainers getting out to Jermaine Jones, who's just emerging very, very gingerly.
Appears to be in some serious distress with a left ankle. The doctor currently just prodding at it a little bit, and a very pained expression on his face. I'd say pretty unlikely to continue at this stage. Greg Clark warming up.
Long, beautiful handball away to Sheed. Wants his left, good looking kick, goes long. That's an amazing kick by Sheed. Terrific kick.
The 2023 Sir Doug Nicholls Round.
On ABC Radio, ABC Sport Digital, and now streaming on the ABC Listen app.
Yes, Hawthorn 46 points to the good at their home away from home in Launceston against West Coast. 11-4-70. Plays 4 straight 24 at the main break. It is, of course, 17th versus 18th, but on current standings, that looks like it will change with West Coast in prime position now. It would seem to fall to the bottom of the AFL ladder. They trail by 46 points at the main stage here at York Park on this Sunday afternoon as round 10, Sir Doug Nicholls Round continues. A reminder this afternoon, immediately after this game, you'll head to the MCG where Carlton are playing Collingwood in what should be an old-fashioned traditional Melbourne blockbuster, and a little later it's GWS hosting St Kilda at the Sydney Showgrounds at 4:40. So Hawthorn hold a comprehensive advantage over West Coast here in Launceston in a game that hasn't really reached any great heights, but will produce some talking points, I think it's fair to say, Nathan Burke.
Yeah, look, it's easy to judge West Coast Eagles with the amount of plays that they've had out. And look, they've had probably the worst run of any team that I can think in recent memory. But we need to judge what they're doing out there today and how they're playing the game. they've had, 151 disposals. So they're only going inside 50 12 times. 12 times for a half is just too low, and they've had opportunities to go inside 50, but they're not taking them. They'll look up and then go elsewhere. So you're never going to win a game. You're not even going to give yourself a chance to win a game with going inside 50 12 times, because the Hawks have gone inside 50 34 times and taken 7 marks. When they've gone inside 50, they've kicked 4 goals. So 4 goals and 12 inside 50s, that's not a too bad ratio. They're just not getting it in there. So for me, hopefully at halftime, let's forget about who's out there and who's not playing. It's the way that they're playing, give themselves an opportunity to win. Whereas for the Hawks, they're young players, and I know that they made a real conscious effort to move on O'Meara and move on Mitchell and get games into these young blokes coming through. The question was always, but are these young blokes going to be any good? Well, the answer is yes, they're going to be guns. Will Day, Newcomb, we saw Weddle coming off a half-back line. He won't play the rest of his career there. Connor Nash is doing a really good job as a midfielder this year. I think they've got the makings of a really powerful midfield group. Probably not next year or the year after, maybe in the year after that. I think they're going to be a really forceful midfield group that they can build a team around.
And some news out of the West Coast camp. Jermaine Jones was subbed out of the game in that second term with a left ankle injury. So the injury news doesn't get any brighter for the Eagles. Greg Clark was injected into the game. Mick Malthouse, interested in your thoughts with some intriguing tactics employed by Adam Simpson during that second term.
Yeah, it was almost like the floodgates had opened. We need to stabilise for a few minutes, just to make sure that the Hawks don't run away with the game before, well, which they have, but make it even worse. But unfortunately, you've got to weigh up the player you put behind the ball who's going to be freed up. And Sicily, he's hard enough to beat when he's got a player, but when he's freed up and he can just go where he pleases. And I thought there were times, and there were a lot of times, when Hawthorn had 2 players behind the ball. So I don't know whether the extra one of whether the extra one of West Coast were actually at the stoppage to see if they can negate the Hawthorn clearance rate, which is not particularly higher than West Coast, but it's a lot cleaner. And if you make, there's got to be the distinction between, it's like entrances inside front 50. You get it in 50 and it comes out, or you get to the 30. That's a more realistic stat, I suppose, is how many times you get into the front 30. But Waterman, that would have been one of the very few times that he's probably played that role, and it's I can see that he was trying to get involved when West Coast had won the football across the half-back line or even across the centre line by making position. But unfortunately, when you're not playing with the same group of players for any length of time through the year and they keep changing, you tend to lose a little bit of connect, and that certainly took place. But look, it's always difficult. It's easy sitting in a coach's box. I'm a former coach. Berkey's a coach right now. You can offer all sorts of things, but you don't really know their players. But on the surface, this third quarter, the breeze is still reasonably stiff. I would be playing Oscar Allen certainly higher up the ground because he's a competitor. He does mark. Maybe you have to go in with a medium side. If you've run, I'm just looking at the player who's come onto the ground, Clark. I'm not sure where he plays his football, but perhaps with his size, 193, plonk him at full forward, just let him contest. So you've got Oscar Allen up the ground. If he's too deep and they can't get the ball to him, well, he's not going to get the ball too often. And what Berkey said was absolutely spot on. You've got to get the ball inside your front 50 to have any hope of winning. So I would load up as best I could with the best possible players around the ball. It's a bit like junior football. Load it up there. Your extremities, well, you just got to put up with it. You're not going to be, it's a long way back from 7 goals down. But get the best players around it. See if you can make some inroads. And by having your best players around the actual stoppage and in front of it having your best marking player in Oscar Allen, when you're full forward, there's a lot of heat. When you're up the ground, you've got a bit more room to move. You can cut across the ground, come up the ground, drop back down, find a bit more space. The back lines just have to hold up as best they can. But if you win a few more of the stoppages, and it's a big job against these giants in the ruck. Ned Roos, he's 210 centimetres, so
he's huge.
And you've got to jump against him all day. But it's not only height; he's a big-bodied player. I watched him lean against Williams there once. They just moved him straight to the ground. So Williams has got to be on his toes all the time. So that takes a lot of effort. We always look at these ruckmen and go, I always call them a bit dopey ruckmen. But I mean, it's facetious. I just use the word. But they're jumping all day. They use
Some of them are, though, Mick.
Well, they are. But they've got to run. They've got to jump. They've got to jump into players. And when you're undersized, then it makes it hard. I've liked the game of Williams at the moment because he's having a real deliberate crack. I'm disappointed in Kelly. I reckon he's let himself be taken out of the game. He's had 8 possessions, I think, and I reckon most of those are hand passes. He had 10. I'd be lucky to have had 3 kicks. Has he had 3 kicks or 4 kicks?
2 kicks.
2 kicks. That's not enough for a player of his quality. Dom Sheed's going okay. Gimbley, well, he's a young boy, but just saturate your midfield. Leave him out there. If they get tired, bad luck. It's a long trip on the plane going back. So suck it in on that. Really, I just can't say enough about. And I'm going to be very, very loath to criticise the coaching because you don't know what your hand is. You can only know from up here. We know the names, but we don't know how fit they are, what sort of form they've come into the game. Because most of these players, they're getting, as Berkey said, he got a few freebies early on. A lot of these players are getting freebies because when I went through the list, there's 10 definites who would be in that side. 10 definites and perhaps 3 or 4 others. So we're looking at players, they're getting games on the back of a lot of injuries, but they're getting a lot of games on the back of injuries. So I'm just looking at Simo go past us now on the ground. He looks a bit dejected. It's just tough work when you're 8 goals down, knowing that most of your good players are sitting at home in Perth. But it's important that his body language is good for the players that are playing out there. And, I know he's a very passionate person, so he'll give you everything he's got. But let's look at Hawthorn. They've made the most of it. It's easy to fall back into a rut and go, OK, West Coast aren't playing good football, but Hawthorn are playing some pretty damn good football. And they move the ball well. The younger players, you've already mentioned those younger players, Berkey, and they are really, they're seriously very good players.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And it must be mentioned that West Coast are without a lot of talent out there today and have been for a number of weeks. They are scraping the bottom of their list to field a team as it stands, and the results are evident of that. So players are making their way up into their positions. We're just about all set to get back underway for this second half here in Launceston. It's a beautiful autumn day here in Tasmania. The sun-soaked York Park, a little bit of breeze still, blue skies as we just await
is that
final
Gaff
preparations.
Gaff half forward, or is he?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's gone right off the boil, isn't he, Gaff? He's just not the player he was on the wing.
So Hawthorn 11-4-70 lead West Coast 4 straight 24. The Hawks by 46 to start the second half here in Launceston. Michael Maney.
Hawthorn by 46. Up they go. Reeves knocks it down. Good tackle on Newcomb by Sheed, and the umpire rewards that.
Yeah, good, very good tackle. Once you lock that arm up, he's got to go forward. Don't muck around by going sideways. Get the ball forward.
Right in the centre. He kicks inside 50. High ball. Sicily got in front. Rove nicely by Petruccelli. Here's Kelly. Kelly swings the ball goalward, and I think that might have gone out of bounds on the full. So Petruccelli was tackled and it just jarred free. Kelly pounced but couldn't make the most of it, and the free will go.
But at least they got a shot.
Yeah.
She did look sideways, but there was no one there, and actually forced him to go along, and they got a shot for goal.
Frost received from Bramble. He clears defensive 50, where Amon takes the mark and hands to the running Mitchell. Goes his full measure. Kicks to left half forward for the Hawks, where Mitch Lewis marks just inside the boundary line, 70 out from goal. Tight angle, pops it into the forward pocket, looking for a target in Kazitsky. The West Coast defender in Witherden just lost his footing. In fact, it was West, and Kazitsky stood tall and took an easy mark in the end. He'll kick for goal from 35 metres out on a pretty tight angle.
I've got to say that was unforgivable by West Coast. So that ball was deep in their territory, and they allowed 3 Hawthorn players in behind the nearest competitor, and that's why the ball has now been uncontested virtually all the way down to a shot on goal.
So Kazitsky will fire for goal number 3. Slides this one just across the face. Contest on the goal line. Lewis might have had a claim to take the mark. He was slung in the tackle, got boots a ball for a flying shot on goal, but it skews over the boundary, over the goal line for a minor score. And Hawthorn had 1 to the tally, 11-5-71 the Hawks. West Coast 4 straight 24, early stages of the third term.
Ball back into play. Short kick finds Sheed at half-back. Newcomb right with him, but Sheed has the footy. Goes in short and finds Rotham. Still on the paint of defensive 50. Rotham wanted to go short to Bazzo, and then he kicks to Sicily, who, well, got up, dropped what he should have taken. Chesser got a little handball away. Now it comes to Allen. Allen will boot inside 50. He almost shinned it. Poor kick by him. Mopped up by Day. Quick handball to Hardwick. This way, that way. Thought about going inboard. Handball to the bootlaces of Meek, who couldn't collect. And in they go. And the ball is caught underneath. The umpire says, give it to me. Sicily, that would have been a specky. We're right behind it, but he couldn't quite drag it in.
So a stoppage just inside 50 for West Coast. Down off the tap. Kelly was hassled. Ball not going anywhere anytime soon. Paddled into the path of Jamison. Tackled by Reeves. Kelly, he was confronted by Nash. Eventually it was Petruccelli laying a tackle as it's all wrapped up. Will Day emerges. In fact, it was O'Neill. We'll have another stoppage on the paint of 50, right near the boundary line. Reeves roved his own tap, got boots a ball, cleared the area. Bouncing ball now for Bazzo. Had to go back and get it. Did so, but he's tackled over the line viciously by Kazitsky. Right into the interchange benches. So boundary throw in now. Early stages of this third term. Hawthorn 11-5-71 lead West Coast 4 straight 24. In it comes. So Williams gets to the front, straight into the path of Sheed, who's tackled by Newcomb. Good battle, those two. They have been pretty closely linked all afternoon. Sheed having a pretty good outing for West Coast. Up it goes again. Reeves over the top. Wanted aim on, but flashing through was Petruccelli. Couldn't get the handle. It dribbled into the path of Sicily, who gathered and shot off the handball to Nash. Got round one tackler in Duggan, then lost his feet. Duggan followed up. Somehow got a handball, Nash. Unlucky was Duggan not to get the free kick. West Coast will come up with it, though, via the boot of Hunt. Inside 50 he goes. Seamus Mitchell got underneath it. Waterman spoiled it away. No free kick. Hawthorn will run it out of defence. Frost shares it with Brockman. 2 bounces. Now 3. Middle of York Park. Mitch Lewis tracking back towards goal. And he marks in the goal square. Coast-to-coast footy from the Hawks. Set up beautifully by Tyler Brockman. Mitch Lewis will kick for his 3rd.
Well, that's how to run and carry the football. I don't like metres gained as a stat, but that was a lot of metres gained by Brockman.
So point blank range, Mitch Lewis pops it through, top of the goal square, he has 3. Hawthorn draw first blood in the second half. They have their 12th, 12-5-77. Hawthorn West Coast, 4 straight, 24, 5.5 gone. Third term for Grandstand AFL, Mick Malthouse.
Well, the contrast in teams is what we say it is with the numbers that the West Coast have got in the grandstand. Once Hawthorn broke, then it was just, I'm taking them on through the corridor. The wind has actually dropped marginally. I'm going to carry the football. Couldn't get chased down. A big key forward stands his ground, takes a big mark. But it was the ease in which Hawthorn won the football, and no defensive coverage through the corridor, which is an absolute sin in my book always. You've got to cover the corridor, make them go to the flanks. But the contrast was the movement, ball movement and clean movement by Hawthorn.
Hawthorn by 53 points, a game high. Up it goes. Williams knocks it down beautifully to Kelly. Now Kelly puts the Jets on and then goes inside 50 with a kick, looking for Jamison and West. Beautifully done by Frost, who just stole it away from the pair of them and then found Meek at half-back. Meek gets it away to Weddle. Weddle just kicks down the wing, just overcooked the kick in the end. Rotham couldn't collect. Mackenzie quick hands, got a handball to Moore. Moore zigs and zags and gets out of trouble and finds Butler. Butler with a handball back to Moore. Moore inside 50. It's a high kick. Up goes Warple. Couldn't take the mark. Hoff was there and he'll track it through for a behind. They were lucky there, West Coast. Hawthorn another behind. They moved 54 points clear. They go to 12-6-78. The West Coast 4 straight 24.
So live ladder update. Hawthorn's climbed to 16th with a percentage of 66.8. Above North Melbourne, who plunged down to 17th as West Coast bring it out of defence. Gaff roves the footy, got it to Kelly. Another disposal for him in this term. Tackled hard by Moore, put it into the path of Sheed. West Coast will come up with it via Chesser. Now Hunt. Short ball, though, was a shocker. Plucked off by Blank, who gets things moving immediately. Warple now at left half forward marks for Hawthorn. He just hesitated as he went to kick, was knocked off it and dispossessed. Hunt was stalking him and forced the turnover. Chesser now for West Coast. Wasn't sure where to go. Eventually went up the line, didn't hit a target. Sicily goes in after it, as did Long for the Eagles. Gathered the footy, got it off to Jamison, released Hoff. His handball misguided. Frost got in the way, brought it to ground. Umpire said play on. Crowd said in the back, and it's all going to be wrapped up right in front of the interchange benches as Jamison emerges with the footy. He was tackled by Amon. We'll have a ball up as the Rucks get into position. Meek roved his own tap. Handball was affected by Jimby. Was kept in by Long. Got it to Kelly. Sweeping handball wanted Waterman. Frost got in the way once more over the boundary line. Once again, right in front of our broadcast position, Andrew Cooling is on the boundary.
Connor McDonald about to come on for Ned Reeves. Doesn't appear to be injury related. I think just getting the second ruck out for a bit more run.
Ball in. Meek tried to knock it down. Jinby spun, then got a handball away. That was nicely done. Quick kick. They go forward. That was Chesser. Here's Waterman. Zigs and zags. Kick was smothered. Moore fed the handball back to Blank. Blank with a real old-fashioned spiral from Blank to the wing. How's the bounce going? Kaczynski couldn't snag it. Foley did beautifully. Got a handball to Duggan. Duggan will kick it back inside 50 off the instep. Gaff goes back with courage. Couldn't take the mark. In comes Impey. Now to Weddle. Weddle just threw it on his boot, but he got a call from Bramble, who was at half back. And Bramble takes the mark. He wanted to go inboard to Day and then decided to peel the kick off looking for Impey, but Foley got in the way. In fact, it was O'Neill. O'Neill took the mark, and his kick's ill-directed. Goodness me. West Coast get an opportunity on the turnover, and then they turn it over almost themselves. Kick out of play. We've gone 9 minutes in the third term. Hawthorn 12-6-78. West Coast 4 straight 24.
You don't want to be predictable going inside 50, but you can kick it to Oscar Allen occasionally. That would help the Eagles.
I think he's playing too deep, though, Bergie. Really, he's just out of their range. They're getting a lot of the ball through the middle, but not on the half-forward line.
Williams from the tap-in tried to take it out of the ruck. Long, handball away to O'Neill, loses possession, taken by Nash. Nash bursts from the stoppage, nicely done, taken away by Impey. Now Impey's got a man in, Butler, good kick, finds him, right at centre half forward, almost true. Butler gets around, thought about something short, now he goes to the lead of Lewis, and Lewis takes the mark, left half forward, about 35 metres from goal. And Lewis, who's booted 3, is looking to kick this one around the body for a 4th.
Again, it's that inability to hold them up on the Eagles' half-forward line, and they just shotgun straight through the middle. You'd hate to be an Eagles defender when the ball coming down like that.
Well, this is going to take a good kick from here because he's a reasonable way out to kick it around the body. He gets some bend on it, but has no problem at all. Lewis gets his 4th. Hawthorn get to a 10-goal lead. They lead by 60 points. They move to 13-6-84. West Coast labouring at 4 straight 24. Their last goal was at the 28-minute mark of the second term.
Yeah, 19 shots to 4. There's nothing to say outside of that. You just know what other stats do count. If you want to know how they got to 19 shots to 4, well, you dig a bit deeper. But I think that tells you a heck of a lot Hawthorn have moved the ball since quarter time with, they've moved it far too easily through the centre of the ground, being able to bounce the football. Bouncing had gone out of the game last year. Today I've seen more bounces than I had in 2 years, I reckon, because Hawthorn players are finding themselves with so much space. They're carrying the football and they've got an open forward line.
And even 10 goals here in Launceston. Hawthorn with the advantage back in the middle. It's all wrapped up as Day lays the tackle right on the bullseye. Duggan in there for West Coast. Another ball up. Up it goes. Rucks go at it. Nobody won it decisively. McDonald injected into the game. Couldn't get the handle. Through came Amon. He was hassled off it. Duggan came flashing through. Gathered the footy. He was tackled by a pair of Hawks. But they've progressed it to centre half forward here, the Eagles. We'll have another ball up. By just directs some traffic and up it goes. Williams knocks it forward for the Eagles. Back in the other direction from Weddle into the arms of Warple. Fed it out to Nash. He lost the handle. Duggan gathered the footy. Nash laid the tackle. We'll have another ball up. 55 metres out from West Coast's goal. They trail by 10 goals. 13-6-84. Plays 4 straight. 24, early stage of this third term. Beautifully roved off the tap by West. Shake the tackle, couldn't get the kick away. It spilt to Sicily. He went the spiral as well into the middle of the ground, but that's a really good one-on-one mark taken by Edwards of the Eagles, who moves things laterally now to Rotham. Spots a target at right half forward in Kelly, who marks. He's got a man in Clark coming past. Feeds the handball. Top of the square now, West Coast. Hawks get back. Mitchell couldn't take the mark. Long spun out of trouble. Didn't take the footy with him. Frost came up with it. Gave it to Sicily on the last line. His little cute kick was a little too cute. Missed the target. It'll spill out of bounds. Deep in attack for West Coast. Boundary throw in.
Well, that's much better by West Coast, although now the forward line is as crowded as you can possibly get. Hawthorn, they've got a lot of numbers down there, but that's much better by a quick movement.
Meek knocks it down, and diving on it was Gaff.
Connor West is the one, needs to get on the move, create something here.
Another ball up. Warple got it from Meek from the tap down. It's just inside West Coast forward 50. And it'll be another ball up as they just drive each other into the turf.
Set up outside the front back 50 there, Berkey's just not good enough. West Coast had the ball 15 metres out. They just need to set up better. They would have resurrected that ball.
Meek gets a knockdown to Nash. Warple. Wide handball on the bounce to Bramble. Bramble's got to get around. I think he's going to be pinged for holding it. No, Hoff had him. He finally released. West got it to Kelly. Kelly back to Hoff. Hoff got it to Ginby. And Ginby is ridden into the turf by Butler. And the umpire says you didn't get rid of it in the correct manner. And Butler gets the free kick. Spreads it to the outer side to Weddle. Weddle just ran off his line and then kicked the ball off the side of his boot, and it just hit the ground. This game's had everything. It's real silly ball bounces. Now taken by Kelly. Kelly goes to West. Now West will kick inside 50, looking for a man. Can't hit a target. The target was Waterman. He's back in the forward line. Now Sicily. So they come out of half-back. Nash has got it now. Little handball away to McDonald. Now back to Nash. And then cutting through the middle is Weddle. Now to Meek. Meek's got Lewis. Lewis can't take the mark. Good defence by Edwards. Jaden Hunt's there. Ball's just tracking toward Hawthorn's goal square. Not quite going to get there. Little handball from Bazzo. Gee, they're under pressure. Clark. Now a little kick by Witherden, looking for Waterman. Waterman can't take it, so it's half forward for Hawthorn, just outside their defensive 50. Here's Clark, the fresh man, kicks it high, but who's he kicked it to? He's kicked it to Mitchell. There was a lot going on there, Chris, in a short period of time.
Long passage of play from you, Michael Maney. Marathon. As Mitchell puts Hawthorn inside 50, but defensive marks taken by Ginby, the youngster. He's been quiet today, Ginby. This will be just his 5th disposal.
Yeah, he's getting gobbled up around the stoppages, isn't he? He's showing how young he is today.
Going to be a player. Here's Ginby. His kick towards the broadcast wing as Williams flies across and takes the mark. He went inboard looking for gap. The kick was awry though. Warple emerges with the footy for Hawthorn. Inside 50 go the Hawks now. One-on-one battle. Mitch Lewis gets back. It falls into the arms of Edwards, who kicks for the boundary line. How will the umpire assess this? Insufficient intent. And it'll be a Hawthorn free kick. Centre wing outer side. They get things moving immediately. Newcombe received from Hardwick. He goes to Impey, middle of York Park. Spreads the ball wide to Seamus Mitchell. He comes a little wider again to Weddle, who's had a ton of it this afternoon. Weddle just retreats back to Impey. So back of a wing, Jarman Impey on the broadcast side. Spots a hit-up target in Mackenzie. Just forward of centre now, the Hawks. Inside 50 now goes Mackenzie in the Lewis direction. He was crashed into by a pair of Eagles, and there's a free kick. Mitch Lewis, who was affected in the contest. It was a little soft, I feel, but Mitch Lewis will go back and kick for number 5. No real angle to speak of. 40 metres out, Andrew Cooling's on the boundary.
Just an update on Ned Reeves, who was subbed out. Apparently it wasn't purely tactical, a bit of an ankle concern there for the big ruckman.
So Lewis, the recipient of the free kick, ambles on in deliberate fashion. Looks pretty good off the boot. The fist pump comes. The players converge and Mitch Lewis has a 5th. Hawthorn out by 66 points. 14-6-90. Plays West Coast's 4 straight 24. 17 and a half gone in this third term, Mick Malthouse.
Oh, what can you say? I think it was a soft decision, but he's in the right position. The ball goes in. It's one of the things that's inevitably happens when you right through football. Berkey, you would have seen this. When things are going bad, they go bad. You get another injury. Jones gets injured today. The umpires don't go out deliberately to not to give or over give free kicks, but there's been 3 or 4 today that have been really soft or should have been given to West Coast or whatever. It just doesn't help your confidence. Your game's already under pressure. They didn't need that, but Hawthorn are playing a better game of football simply because they've got better players playing. They're moving the ball better. West Coast players, especially the younger players, haven't really learnt the tempo yet and been able to cover defensively through that corridor. Hawthorn are using the corridor beautifully.
Secondary centre ball up. Mitch Lewis has booted Hawthorn's last 4 goals. Connor McDonald goes inside 50. Witherden couldn't take the mark. He almost grabbed it, Witherden. He was in front and it just bounced off his chest. And now he's gobbled up and it'll be a ball up.
And Barras comes over on the plane, can't play because of the flu. So, there's another thing that's just going against the West Coast. I'm not going to try to stick up for them, but, these things do take place and it's unfortunate.
Meek took it out of the ruck. Just inside Hawthorn's forward 50 at the moment. Witherden, Ginby, in fact it was Jamison. Now Sheed, and his little half-distance kick is marked by Sicily. So scrappy old affair. Hawthorn by 66. Sicily goes inside forward 50. Bruce couldn't take the mark, fed it out the back to Nash. Nash got it close to teammate in Butler. His underground handball taken by Moore. Moore wants to thread this around the body, and he misses. Just away to the right. Hawthorn by 67 points, 14-7-91. West Coast 4 straight 24. And we've gone almost 20 minutes in the third quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Witherden with ball in hand just lurks outside the defensive goal square. Hits a target in Allen at centre half back, feeds a Sheed by hand. He gets things going by hand across the ground to Hunt, who finds a target in Waterman on the outer wing. He goes over the top now to Hoff, who marks it left half forward for the Eagles. They've moved this well. Some intent here from West Coast. Hoff now, he's going to just retreat ever so slightly back.
Now Oscar Allen is now 70 metres from the ball. He was 50 before. That ball goes in, and now it's 70.
So Foley has it. 70 from goal. Deep entry for West Coast inside 50. Off hands Jamison. Gathered the footy. Kicked a high one around the body to the top of the goal square. Big fist from Sicily. Emerging with it was Newcombe. Took a bounce. Well, that's a bizarre decision. He's being called for holding the ball. He was tackled as he bounced it. The tackle was broken. The ball came back to Newcombe. He kept on running and he was pinged for holding the ball. The crowd in bemusement. Petruccelli with the free kick 50 metres out from goal. I'm not sure about that one.
Interesting one, because he wasn't really retarded in the tackle, but the hands were on him when he bounced it. So whether that's the letter of the law, we have to actually be tackled, not sure. But it's about time the Eagles had one anyway.
Petrocelli from just inside 50 sets sail for home and misses to the near side, so a minor score. I've never seen a free kick like that. He broke the tackle and continued to run and was pinged for holding the ball. Anyway, that's a minor score for the Eagles. 10-7-91 the Hawks. West Coast 4-1-25.
So Sicily now boots it out wide, and Mitchell didn't have to break stride. Good kick. He's hard up on the boundary line on the outer side, kicks to the wing to the Brewst and Witherden, I think it is, or that Edwards, and the ball is knocked out of play. Boundary throwing. Geez, a lot of West Coast Eagles players we haven't seen at all and very little of, and they are under some sort of pressure in season 2023, the West Coast Eagles. As Harley Reid will be thinking, I might be going west. Here's Meek over the back. Day had the best of days as Will, and he's tackled and holding the ball. So a bit of a lull here. Dom Sheed, who's soldiered on.
If they all put in the effort that this bloke has put in, then they'll be a lot closer. That's 24 possessions, the most on the ground, and 2 goals to go with it. He's been tireless.
Hunt, his kick measured to West. Got to have a front-on tackle.
Oh, goodness gracious me.
And not paid. Hardwick with the crumb to Impey, back to Hardwick, who wants to hit it right out wide, and out wide he'll go to Bramble.
Bramble in an acre of space is allowed to wait for it to bounce, and he does just that. Eventually comes to him and he hits Day at right half forward. He puts a low ball into Mitch Lewis, who takes the mark, sliding into the left forward pocket for the Hawks, and he's a chance to kick his 6th here. Tight angle on the boundary. It'll take something reasonably impressive. Distance, no worries. Mitch Lewis missed the first portion of the year, of course, via injury, but has returned with a bang. So leans back on the kick. Does Mitch Lewis, slides it across the face. I'm not sure that'll register a score. In fact, it won't. It'll be a West Coast ball.
That wind has completely died now.
There's not much of it.
There's none up that end, but those flags are moving, but the ones up the other end aren't.
So from the kick in, getting across was Meek. Couldn't complete the mark. Brought it to ground. Fed it off to Impey. His handball over the top, was looking for aim on, but he was hassled by Sheed. It'll be a boundary throw in. Forward of a wing, Hawthorn attacking side on the broadcast side of the ground. 14-7-91 the Hawks. West Coast 4-1-25. 23 minutes gone. 3rd term for Grandstand AFL.
Well, Hawthorn have got 2 spare players behind the ball, 1 in the middle of the ground and 1 deep. So the Eagles are running a bit of a risk here.
Lloyd Meek tries to take it out of the ruck. Needs the handball away now to Kelly of West Coast, who spirals one to the wing. All knocked away by Mitchell of Hawthorn. They dive on him, and the umpire says, give it to me. Just in front of the interchange gates in the Western Stand.
It is Eagles.
Andrew?
Oh, sorry, go downstairs.
Yeah, completely still, as you were just alluding to, boys. I'll let you get back to the play, but the wind is completely gone.
The Eagles, the Hawks do hold their wing in a funny spot. They keep him right on the other side of the ground to really stretch it and make it as wide as they can.
West Coast are going to go forward here through O'Neill. O'Neill's kick to a 2-on-1, Waterman being the one, and the ball just thumped to the line. It'll be a boundary throw in. The Eagles are in attack. They're about 35-40 metres out from their goal, and a ball in.
It's 2-on-1 with the Hawthorn player running past, so it actually made it 3-on-1. The kicker, he did well to make sure he didn't give it back to Hawthorn.
From the boundary throw-in, Jamison got to the front. Weddle emerged with a footy. He had a bit more time than he thought, but threw a high and long ball up the wing. Into the middle of the ground it goes. Connor McDonald and Jaden Hunt do battle. Hunt won that battle, got it over to Gaff, but Hawthorn will emerge with it through Brockman. Over now to Amon. Neat left foot ball to Bruce, who's in plenty of space at right half forward. Well, he took his time, eventually got the kick away. He wanted Nash inside forward 50. He couldn't take the mark. It was broken up, and the Eagles' defence reigned supreme. They got it to Dom Sheed, who marked on his chest, moved things on to Waterman out wide. He couldn't take the mark on his chest. Now West Coast turn it over. Carl Amon into the middle of the ground for Hawthorn. McKenzie takes it on the bounce, spins one way, then the other. Goes backwards to Amon, who spreads it wide to Bramble. Little kick inside 50 is good. There is Nash, who marks this time at left half forward, 55 metres out from goal. So Connor Nash, who has been productive, 19 disposals and 7 tackles for the Irishman so far this afternoon, and
he should knock this over, honestly. There is a slight breeze, and that's right over his shoulder. 55 metres, he's good for every bit of 55 metres, this bloke.
He's lining up as if to have a shot on goal. He lets fly. He'll put it right to the goal line. A big fly on the goal line, unable to be taken. It doesn't register a score. Ball's still in play. Players converge. Butler lays a big tackle. It'll be a stoppage 5 metres out from the Hawthorn goal.
Well, there's a classic. 2 Eagle players collided, and that would be because they probably haven't played with one another for, if ever.
Deep in the teeth of Hawthorn's goal, West Coast will want it rushed in. Meek tries to keep it in. Ginby tried to knock it through, but then Gaff just walks it over the line for a rush behind. Hawthorn 14-8-92. West Coast 4-1-25.
Ball up. 2 metres out, Hawthorn will able to hit the ball through, and it becomes a point. Hit through by West Coast, it becomes deliberate. Same ball.
Off hands from the kick in, the clear defensive 50. McKenzie got it to Blank, tried to keep it in. He's taken over by a pair of Eagles, Greg Clark amongst them, as was Petrocelli. Will have a boundary throw in. 70 metres out from Hawthorn's goal. Broadcast side, deep into this third term. In it comes. Jamison got to the front. He's battled hard this afternoon. Duggan tracks it. Got hands to it. Kick was smothered. Moore came up with it for the Hawks. Handball found Nash. He released Newcomb. Rode the tackler. Don't argue on Duggan. Found himself some time. Next time he was caught. He dropped it cold, and the umpire said play on, somewhat bizarrely. Into the forward pocket go the Hawks via Amon. And this might be a free kick going the way of West Coast against Bruce. So on that occasion, it was Jai Newcomb, took on about 3 tacklers, was stripped of the footy and allowed to play on. Bizarre scenes here at York Park.
That was a case, I think, of he wasn't tackled. The ball was knocked out of his hands, even though he had escaped about 4 tackles to that point.
So West Coast have possession inside the defensive 50 as the siren sounds. 3 quarters gone. Hawthorn 14-8-92. Lead West Coast 4-1-25. They failed to kick a goal in that term, did the Eagles. It's the Hawks by 67 as we turn for home. Mick Malthouse and Nathan Burke.
Well, we've said a fair bit about it, Burke. I don't know if we can add anything else. Really, it's been... All I'll say is that Hawthorn had what I would say is the scoring end, and they were held to 3 goals, 4. So defensively, I thought the Eagles weren't too bad, but offensively, I'm not too sure how many times they've gone inside the front 50. They only scored a point. I'm pleased they didn't start to try to get too many players behind the ball. At least they took them on, tried to actually win the ball at the source. I take my hat off to Williams. He's trying his heart out. But Hawthorn are showing a lot in terms of run and carry. They've now got Lewis back in their forward line, and he missed the first few games because of an injury. So when you see that, Hawthorn are a much better side when they've got a big go-to. Kaczynski, it takes the pressure off Kaczynski. He can now become a second floating forward. He's taken marks and kicked goals. They'll worry a lot of sides, the Hawks. The Eagles, when they get their players back, will. But right now on this day, they have been bullied a bit through the corridor. They've been bullied at stoppages. They've taken their eye off the corridor. Hawthorn have run through the corridor. It's almost predictable. I'm not making excuses for the Eagles because there's a lot of young kids out there, but you just know if you take out 4 or 5 good players from any side in the competition. We've seen it with Geelong, and they've lost Dangerfield, and they've lost a couple of other players. All of a sudden they become human, and they've lost the last couple of games. So these things do take place. And what I'm saying is don't be disheartened. There's going to be a lot of people going, well, we've kicked 4 goals. Yep, that's not good. It's not a good scoreboard at three-quarter time on a perfect day for football. But, they come over with what they believe was their 22, and 3 players drop out overnight. So that adds to the woes, and it adds to the frustrations. It adds to the dilemma that's right in front of you. But nonetheless, this is an opportunity with a slight breeze. Try to win the stoppages, try to get the ball on the forward line, and try to outscore your opposition.
Goal kickers for the Hawks. Mitch Lewis has 5 with a quarter still to play. Jacob Kaczynski has 2. Josh Weddle has 2. Singles to Bruce, Butler, Moore, Brockman and McKenzie. For West Coast, Dom Sheed has 2. Allen and Jones have 1 apiece. Leading disposal winners for Hawthorn, James Sicily has 23, Connor Nash has 21, and Josh Weddle has 20. For the Eagles, Dom Sheet leads all comers with 26 disposals. Tim Kelly got up to 19 off the back of a productive third term, and Alex Witherden has 18 for West Coast. Nathan Burke.
The worry a little bit for me for the Eagles is a lot of the players who are out are on the wrong side of 30. And even if they do come back in, they're not going to be here the next time that the West Coast are vying for finals and vying up the top. What we're seeing with Hawks is we're seeing a very young midfield develop. With the West Coast, Dom Sheed is still their best midfielder going around at the moment. So I'd potentially like to see Petruccelli and West and Duggan and these guys, give them a crack in the middle. See what they can do in there and see whether they're going to graduate from just being peripheral players to midfield players inside. And even Dom Sheed is probably not going to be there next time they're vying for finals. So really reshape that midfield and put a different look in there. I like the Hawks, what they're building with Kaczynski and Mitchell. Both of them have sort of taken a while to come on, to hit their straps. They need to make sure they don't become a little bit of flat track bullies where they're kicking 5 against an Eagles. I saw them play Melbourne last week and neither of them really had any consequence on the game at all. They need to start now to step up against really good defenders and be great forward targets and impact the game against good teams, not necessarily against these sorts of teams when they can kick 4 or 5 and get the stats up and say, yep, they're averaging 2 a game, which is pretty good. I want to see them do it against good teams from now on.
And it'd be pretty heartening from a Hawthorn perspective as well that it's some of those names having the most impact in terms of maybe not the most household names. Connor Nash, Josh Weddle in his first season. Seamus Mitchell's been really impressive as well. Sam Butler, Lockie Bramble, Cam McKenzie. So it's not like the bulk of the work here is being done by the experience of James Sicily's been really good, but the likes of Sicily and Frost and Amon and the more experienced core. So some of those young next generation players for the Hawks having an impact and really contributing towards this 67.3 quarter time lead as players make their way into their positions here at York Park. A reminder that immediately after this game you're off to the MCG for a blockbuster Collingwood and Carlton 3:20. What will be a game the eyes of the AFL world will be on, and then later it's St Kilda and GWS from the Sydney Showgrounds at 4:40. But right here, right now, we're just about to get back underway. 4th and final frame here in Launceston. Hawthorn by 67.
Meek and Williams. Williams knocked it down beautifully to Kelly. So Kelly of the West Coast. Sicily gets back. He kicked it inside 50. Came off James Blank's boot and bobbed up in the air. A little handball comes out towards Moore, close to the boundary line, and the Hawks will see it out of bounds. It's just outside West Coast's. Hawthorn's attacking 50, I should say.
How's that changed? Ruckman gets his hand to it. Williams gets his hand straight to Kelly. Ball gets out of the centre. All of a sudden the ball's near a scoring zone. Fantastic play by Williams.
Yeah, he's been terrific in the ruck today. Here's Kelly. Jamison got it to Sheed, who's been their best player. Sheed, well, he kicked a goal from out here in the second term, I think it was. And he almost got another. He hit the post. So West Coast moved to 4 goals to 26. Hawthorn 14-8-92.
Sicily from the restart. Short one in to Nash. He kicked to McKenzie. They're outside defensive 50, the Hawks. At left half back, he's going to go sideways out to Weddle, who marks and thinks about going back inside defensive 50. He's a little unsure here, Weddle. Eventually he's going to load up and kick up the line on the outer wing. Missing the footy there was Ginby. At the bottom of the pack was Lewis. He was tackled. It spills free. Lewis went in after it. A crafty handball out to Day, who got it to Connor McDonald, shared it with Butler, back to Bramble, scans ahead, inside 50, go the Hawks. Bruce was a target, flew, couldn't take the mark, it bounced back out to McDonald, now McKenzie, now Warple, a little unsure, feigned inside with the handball, eventually said, I'll just go myself and kick a goal. And he did exactly that from 40 metres out, did Warple, as the seas parted, and James Warple capitalised. He kicks his first. Hawthorn go to 15-8, 98, West Coast 4-2-26. 2 minutes gone, fourth and final term here at York Park. Grandstand AFL, Nick Malthouse.
Well, that's the last thing that West Coast needed, but just watching the workload, when the ball's in the back half of Hawthorn, just watching where their players spread to, and I'm watching the Eagle players, did they spread with them? They spread with them, but they don't spread hard enough to them. So it allows Hawthorn to use the next 15, 20 metre kick and then keep breaking the line open. I was just watching, I'll get his name, Rotham. He was totally oblivious to a man in behind him. It's quite extraordinary that a backline player would run around not knowing where his man is and then leave him unattended. So pay a penalty, West Coast.
Hawthorn setting a new mark for the margin, 72 points now. So secondary ball up by the umpire. Meek in there as Nash and Duggan go at it off the ball. And goes Day over the top of Sheed. Sheed just laying on the footy and the umpire says, give it to me. Still in the centre square. 3 minutes gone. Grandstand AFL, Chris Rowbottom, Michael Maney, Mick Malthouse, Nathan Burke, Andrew Cooling on the boundary. McKenzie now to Sheed. Another possession to him. Bad bounce for Allen. Blanks quick enough to get back on it. Fed it to Impey by hand. To Hardwick. Now to Warple. Back to Moore. Moore on the wing. On the western side. Kicks looking for McDonald. He takes the mark in front of Witherden. McDonald, handball to Moore, who kept running. And then Moore just spears the kick and finds Bruce, who's 35 metres out directly in front. And it was all academic.
Michael, that's exactly what I'm saying about work ethic. You read Moore twice, and you had him balking, kicking, then you had him hand passing or short kick again because of his work ethic. He just ran, he run the legs off his opponent.
Bruce kicked one, lays back on the kick, and Bruce got two. The crowd go Bruce. Hawthorn gets their 16th. They move to 16 goals, 8, 104 to West Coast 4-2-26. 4.5 gone in the term.
Luke Bruce hasn't had a big day. That's his second goal, just at the 9 possessions. And I saw him play last week against Melbourne, and he looked a step behind, to be totally honest. Was really struggling to keep up with the pace of the play, and kicked goal early in that first quarter, but hasn't been cited overly since.
Smart play though, Berkey. If he gets hold of
doesn't
football,
need much, does
no, he doesn't. But you're right though. He's at that age where you have to drop off a little bit of pace, and it does show up, particularly against the better sides.
78 points the margin here in Launceston. A percentage booster looming for the Hawks. They're few and far between these days for Hawthorn supporters, but I'll take them where they can get them. Out of the middle, they're going to go again here. Warple got it over to McKenzie, hassled out a bit by Kelly. Eventually he came up with it, got boots a ball, and inside 50 go Hawthorn once more. Foot of the ball was Mitch Lewis, clean below his feet, got it off to Day. Handball over the top, searching for Bruce, unable to take it. The reinforcements arrive and Clark grabs the footy. He's all wrapped up by Dylan Moore. We'll have a ball up 40 metres out from Hawthorn's goal, just in front of our broadcast position, right half forward. Up it goes, Reeves. in Mika, in fact, brought it down. Little kick out of the congestion. Meek took it. It wasn't 15. He's immediately claimed by Bailey Williams, and another ball up.
Doug McKenzie reminds me very much of his current coach. Just the blonde hair, very poised when he gets it. Not overly fast, I wouldn't say, but really smart with the ball in hand.
With it and off the tap, kick toward the boundary. Moore went in after it, rode a tackle that might have been high, shrugged it, then put Hawthorn inside 50. Bouncing ball found its way into the arms of Connor Nash. Ungainly left foot ball around the corner. With it and flew for the chest mark, couldn't take it. Met hard by Jinby, got it off to a teammate. Kelly received the handball. O'Neill received it from him. Got past a tackler, went wide to Dom Sheed. He stopped and propped, and the little short 20-metre ball up the line was dealt with by James Sicily, who knocked it over for a boundary throw-in right in front of the interchange benches.
Not a lot of intent to keep it into play there, was there? But that's just the way. That's the way we look at things these days, isn't it?
And another little anomaly of the rules.
Yes, it is. So the boundary throw in. Williams at the back, Meek at the front, just knocked it about 30 metres forward. Bruce tried to run onto it with Foley, in fact, with him. And the umpire says insufficient intent there against Foley, and it'll go to Bruce.
Oh, that umpire's he's had a good day.
Bruce kicks inside 50. Up they go. No mark by Lewis. He's back after it again. Can't collect. And now the little kick out by Kelly. Just a hack kick out of there. Falls to Mitchell. Mitchell's kick's going to be marked by Edwards going back. And Edwards will relieve the pressure for the Eagles.
So Edwards out to Petrocelli in the right back pocket. He's got Hoff running for him. He pops it over the top and he takes the mark at right half back. He's going to come back into Witherden, who marks on the paint of 50. Little kick into the middle of the ground. Petrocelli kept running, had to stretch but took the mark. They build something here, West Coast. Out wide they go to Hunt. Wanted Kelly at right half forward. Missed the mark, but the ball just sat up for him. Took it on the bounce. Got it back to Hunt going forward. Inside 50 go the Eagles. Allen was the target. Couldn't take the mark. Went in back after it. Jamison was there as well. Sicily on hands and knees. They eventually force it over for a boundary throw-in in the right forward pocket for West Coast, who trail by 78 points here in Launceston.
And they're throwing another man in behind the ball with the wind, so they're one short in their forward line.
And it comes in West Coast's attacking zone. Warple read it best off the tap, shrugged the tackler, knocked it forward to Bramble. He was tackled as he kicked it beyond defensive 50, knocked away from Lewis, but Day read it best, back to Warple, rides another tackle, somehow squeezes out a handball to McDonald, then Brockman, then Nash, now Amon. Squeezes a kick towards half forward and got it to the free man in Butler. He's 65 metres out from goal. He's got nothing to really kick to inside forward 50. Takes his time. Eventually releases Bramble by hand, who was running past. Runs to 35 metres. All too easy for the Hawks. Lockie Bramble joins the party. He kicks his first, and Hawthorn stretched this margin out to 84 points. 17-8, 110 the Hawks. West Coast 4-2-26. 9.5 gone. Fourth and final term for Grandstand AFL. It has been a bruising display from Hawthorn at their home away from home, Nathan Burke.
Well done by Bramble. That was a good finish. He ran a long way, a good 45, 50 metres to get that handball. He was running flat out, and sometimes when players run that far at full pace, they're unable to get the kick going on line and straight, and you put that one straight through the middle. So again, a good running play by the Hawks. I think they've got a fine crop of guys who cover the ground really well. Their skills are more than competent, and again, he's just a young player that potentially he's probably a midfielder growing up playing his footy, and he's now plying his trade in another spot that's probably not what he's used to, but doing a good job.
Hawks by 84 points out of the centre. Newcomb got it to Day. Day dodges around, cuts through the centre logo, and then goes long inside 50. No mark. Bazzo did pretty well for West Coast, competed well, and got the ball to ground. Now he's fighting hard for it again, and it'll be a ball up.
Berkey, just getting back to that goal that was kicked, though, the West Coast extra was bypassed because of the run, so they become useless.
30 metres from Hawthorn's goal, picked up by McDonald, threw it on the boot, into the pocket, Lewis and Edwards. Edwards falls over, so too Lewis. Little handball comes back out to Lewis, this way, that way, gets it to Mackenzie. Mackenzie, a casual shot at goal, and he pops through another one for the Hawks, and they're out by 90 points. 92 points, thank you, Christopher. Hawthorn kicking 18th, 18 goals, 116. West Coast 4-2-26. Mackenzie's second. And the Hawks keep rolling on.
Yeah. And it's despairing now for the West Coast. Demoralising in many respects because the efforts, you can't say that players haven't got the effort. It's just that they're being overwhelmed by a flood of confident Hawthorn players. So it goes in, they've got numbers all around. They've got inner players put their head in the trough, and they've got the outer, and they've been able to easily find space for shots on goal like that, which they should not do.
And Dom Shee did turn around to his defenders and said, guys, how did he get by himself? You've got to push over, you've got to follow him. So he's worked his backside off. He has. He's expecting the others to do the same, and they're not holding up their end of the bargain.
Liam Duggan in the middle of the ground gathers the footy, but it's tackled by Connor McDonald. Who would have thought the battle 17th and 18th, the gap would be 90 points into this fourth and final term. Newcomb, handball out to Meek, to Day, to Moore. Moore over the top now, releases Mitchell on the outer side. He gets and goes back to aim on their streaming forward here, the Hawks. Short ball inside 50 and another mark inside 50 to the Hawks. This time it's Brockman who marks on his chest, and heel kick for goal. 40 metres out, 45-degree angle.
Well, they're just taking off now, the Hawks.
Yeah, running forward.
They're just running with pretty much gay abandon, and it's all coming off. And when you're 100 points behind, it's chasing's hard at any time. When you're 100 points behind, it's really hard, but they've got to fight it out. Simo's got to see what they're made of. Who's going to really fight this out?
Brockman for his second of the afternoon. In he comes, leans back on the kick, sends it on its way, and it's home. 96 points the margin here in Launceston. Brockman has 2. Hawthorn 19-8, 122. West Coast 4-2-26. The Eagles haven't kicked a goal since the 28-minute mark of the second term. Hawthorn on the way to a percentage-boosting win in this battle of the cellar dwellers. Mick Malthouse.
Well, Chris, I'd love to be able to have something to say. I'd like to be now sitting out in the sun, quite frankly. It's really disappointing. I make my feelings known. I have such a soft spot for the Eagles, and I admire them. But it's hard to look at this. Hawthorn are just, as Berkey said, they're confident now. They just run forward and they expect the ball to come to them. West Coast, there's no wall whatsoever.
19-8, 122 to 4-2-26. Ball back in the centre. Jamison got the knockdown, taken by Newcomb. Meek's handball was chopped off by Chesser, and I tell you what, he almost had everything chopped off Chesser. He hit the ground. Here's Mackenzie just wheeling around in the middle and then chipping towards Sicily. Sicily had a man out wide, decides to kick inside 50. Up goes Lewis, can't take the mark, did it well on the ground. Handball just straight into the path of Witherden, who was tackled high. Umpire missed that one. In goes Hunt, he's tackled, and it'll be a ball up.
I don't know how you can miss it. You just about did a Ned Kelly on him.
Yep. It was there, just didn't pay it. Hawthorn inside 50, looking for a 100-point margin here. Ball's close to the line. Gaff just kept it in. And the ball unable to be kept in. That is by Chesser. And another ball in just outside Hawthorn's attacking 50. And right in front of us here on the broadcast side of the ground. Hawthorn 19-8, 122. West Coast 4-2-26 for Grandstand AFL, Chris Rowbottom.
Boundary throw in right in front of the broadcast position at right half forward for the Hawks. They're looking for yet another one. Sheed off the tap, immediately tackled. Manages to break the tackle, or does he? No, not quite in time, as the umpire says, I'll have it please, and we'll go again. Meek won it down into the path of Warple, who went in after it, got it off to Amon, had to handball over his head to Day, tackled by Witherden, fed the handball off, but only just. Players converge at centre-half forward. Mackenzie's there as he's dug in for the Eagles. We'll have another ball up at true centre-half forward for the Hawks, searching for their 20th goal. Out of the ruck goes Meek. Sheed, who's tried hard all day, fed it up to Jamison. He just passed it to Hunt. He's scrambled it out of the stoppage, but to nobody in particular, and Hawthorn is set up. Hardwick receives it centre-half back, spies Mitchell out wide, kicks to him, takes it and goes. Burns off Petruccelli. A couple of speedsters. Eventually, he's forced to handball defensively to Newcomb, who fans the kick wide to Frost. He goes wider again to Sicily, and now the Hawks go inside 50. Dropping the mark was Clark. Day came through and laid a bone-crunching tackle. Cries of ball unrewarded. West Coast come up with it via Waterman. Back to Rotham. Kicks outside defensive 50, but Sicily just got rid of Connor West in pretty agricultural fashion and gave away the free kick.
So the Eagles, just their structure, they're collapsing in on their forward line. So when you collapse in, you've got nothing to kick the ball to. So these back line, the first thing that Waterman does is go backwards.
West to Witherden to Waterman, and now back to Rotham.
Today they haven't been able to get the ball from one side of the ground to the other at all.
Rotham straight up the line in front of the interchange benches. Big fist from Sicily. Only as far as Hunt, who gave it to Williams. Now it's
go out the other side.
Feeds it back to Waterman.
Now open up the middle.
He's got a man inside defensive 50 in Edwards. He marks, and his kick is an absolute nightmare over the top of Kelly. Turns it over in a dangerous spot, marked by Newcomb. His kick was just as bad, into the back of McDonald. Falls to Mackenzie. Laconic around the corner, missing. A minor score for the Hawks, who pushed the margin out to 97. 19-8. 19-9, 123, plays West Coast 4-2-26.
Well, the play we called was right. He just missed Tim Kelly in the middle.
Yeah, he's some of his kicking today. Edwards has been off the mark. He's turned a few over, but he's had a few mates. Don't you worry about that. We won't want to isolate him. It's been a game of turnovers. Hawthorn's missed targets today. It's been one of those days. But Hawthorn obviously in front. Meek took it out of the ruck. It's right in front of us here, near the interchange gates on the western side of the ground, and it'll be a ball up.
I'm seeing a few arguments on the ground too now. Waterman debating or arguing with Roth. It's pretty simple. One's loose player in the back line. The other one has to man someone up.
O'Neill tries to get through from the stoppage. Ginby dodges one, loses possession, now goes to Weddle. Weddle just kicks it high. Bazzo, well, they all collapsed like a deck of cards down there. It was just like trying to build a pyramid of cards and someone just knocking it over. They all just collapsed onto the ground and the ball went out of play.
So to me, a player behind the ball should be 50 metres all over the ground, so he can influence the play. If you're going to have him there at all.
Kelly sharked the tap down, taken by Kazitsky, got it to Bruce, who was caught. Now it's Nash. Nash decides to centre it up. It's a real high ball. Up they fly. No one can take a mark. Ball just flicks out to Petruccelli for the West Coast, and he looks and finds Long on the outer side.
Long's at right half back for West Coast. Took a strong mark, in fact, in front of Seamus Mitchell. Goes short inboard to Foley. Rotham presents for him, but he looks elsewhere and decides to go up the line. So we're on the outer wing as Jamison was worked underneath it by Sicily. Grabbed the footy, was tackled by West. Fed out a handball though to Hardwick. He's put his opponent into a spin cycle and released Connor McDonald, who goes to Will Day just inside 50. If he elects to have a shot, he'll kick from 55. He's going to go short to Brockman, who will mark also just inside 50. He's got a short target on him, Bruce, who had to juggle the mark but reeled it in with the one paw, and Bruce will kick for goal from 40 metres out. Slight angle, this to make the margin 100 plus.
Was Rotham? Is that Rotham on the mark?
It is.
He has had the had the wanders all day.
So Luke Bruce to push the margin beyond 100 points in Launceston, and he does just that. Luke Bruce kicks goal number 3, and Hawthorn moved to 129 to West Coast 4-2-26. You heard that correctly. Hawthorn out by 103 points. Staggering scenes here in Launceston. Mick Malthouse, as you watch this through hands and fingers.
Well, I am watching through hands and fingers. You're spot on. But I can put up with players who are probably not as skilled as the opposition, so long as they have a go. But what I just can't cop is that if you're a backline player in this case, now the Eagles are getting beaten all over the ground, but there are players in that backline who have got an opponent. They look and wander around and they point to other players to pick their player up, and they take an easy way out. That has come about because 2 senior players decided they didn't want to pick anyone up, and Bruce kicks an easy goal.
10 unanswered goals. Hawthorn. Here's Weddle out of the centre. Gets it to Newcomb. Newcomb with a real spear, but that's a good mark. And that's been taken by the West Coast Eagles. Would have been Foley. Now taken by Day. Now to Newcomb. Newcomb's kick. Well, it's only going to favour the West Coast Eagles, and the mark diving away has been taken by Brough.
Well, he's got 5 players to kick to, which is a disgrace.
Yeah.
They're all lateral, all looking for cheap kicks. No one fall to the ball.
They're getting the stats up now.
Well, this is where it really gets disappointing, more so than the loss.
Down the line. Sicily in best position takes the mark.
He flew from 2 deep and took the mark over the head of Oscar Allen, which is no mean feat, but he's just controlled the airways this afternoon. James Sicily, he's been impenetrable, and he'll send Hawthorn inside 50 once again. It was a 3-on-1. Mitch Lewis had work to do, but he might come up with it. At the fall of the ball was Butler. He's ridden into the ground and will have a ball up 35 metres out from Hawthorn's goal as they search for, would you believe it, a 21st major in this game.
More bad news for the Eagles. Liam Duggan walking down into the change rooms with the doctor.
Andrew Cooling, have we got an update on Liam Duggan?
Yeah, he came off a few minutes ago and seemed like he was struggling to breathe. Just sat on the bench for a few minutes and after a while has just wandered off. Seemed to be walking all right. Maybe he's one of the players who was struck down by the virus, but he looked pretty despondent and, went straight down the race with the doctor. And
one of their prime movers too, Liam Duggan. Off the stoppage was Connor McDonald, who had his kick smothered for the Hawks. Newcomb went in hard, fed out a handball to Brockman, tried to carve a path, was tackled, couldn't do so. It came out to Butler. He was ripped off his kick. Lewis, just a little toe poke, was clever out to Bramble. Had time to cut back inboard, missed Newcomb with the kick. Meek had to go in after it. Gathered it from below his knees. Right foot check side from 40 metres out was no good. Waterman got back and was awarded a free kick in his attempt to take the mark against Lewis, deep in defence for the Eagles.
Jaden Hunt takes the mark from the short kick. The former Melbourne Demon finds himself in a spot of bother here at the Eagles. Now Bazzo takes the mark, only a young player, needs a few more years in the gym. He's got a bit of range about him. Now the umpire says there's a 50-metre penalty, is there? So something's gone on off the ball. And where's it going? We're all been a bit confused today, but anyway, Hunt has come out to half back. Oh, that just totally confused me. Here's Williams right in front of the logo on the grandstand side of the ground. Goes long, really high kick. Allen hasn't been able to get into it today. Taken by Hardwick. His run of kicking multiple goals might be over today. Here's Bramble. Now Bramble's got the mark at half back, outer side. His kick looking for and finding Bruce on the bounce. Bruce with a handball to Newcomb. Now Newcomb goes in long. He's looking for Lewis. What sort of a bounce is he going to get? It's not too bad. He wheels around across the body. Lewis has got 6. And the Hawks power away to a 109-point lead. It was in slow-mo in some way, but Hawthorn 21 goals, 9, 135. West Coast 4-2-26, and we've gone 26 minutes in the final term on Grandstand AFL at York Park.
Yeah, just a bit too easy, wasn't it? No chasing, and then dropped off. Lewis just had buckets of time, got close enough. What the goal umpire's doing down the other end? He hasn't been told it's all clear.
No, he's got to call players back into the square.
Is that what he has to do?
Yep.
He has to get involved. But anyway,
Mick, they got a lot to do.
I reckon he could play centre forward for West Coast next week. So he's had a fair bit of practice at putting two fingers up.
Josh Rotham too. After that chase, he's sort of feeling the groin region. I don't know whether it's because he got outrun, but he's hobbling a little bit with that groin.
Back in the middle now. Here's Foley tracking it back for West Coast into defence. His handball was picked off, and Hawthorn are going to come up with it once more. Carl Amon inside 50 now. Couldn't find a target. Bruce laid a tackle. Witherden came up with the footy out to Jimby. He'll go with the 1-2 with Clark. Receive it back, and he gives it to Waterman. Kicks to a one-on-one. Battle that Sicily wins once more. Got the handball to Weddle. Now back to Frost. Another inside 50 for Hawthorn. Who can take a mark? Lewis flew. It came down to Butler. He was tackled as he attempted to kick. Went in and got it again. Warple on hands and knees. Squirts out to Weddle. He's hassled over the line by Sheed, who has tried very hard all afternoon, and
he has
played a lone hand for the Eagles.
Yeah, and his defensive work has been quite sound as well. He does put in. Even this setup here, Hawthorn have got 3v1 to the Ruckman's left-hand side. So if he taps it out that way, Hawthorn can only succeed in having another shot on goal.
I'm trying to figure out where all the West Coast players are. They've got one spare behind the ball.
For no reason.
The rest of them come up to the contest and just get lost in traffic.
Nash out of the congestion, got it to Brockman, who spies off something spectacular. Right foot check side from 40 would have been very special, but not on this occasion. He kicks it out on the full, and
very selfish too.
Jake Waterman will have the free kick.
Yeah, he went for the party trick there, did Brockman. So Waterman with the high kick. Big pack of players in the middle of that. Weddle couldn't take the mark for Hawthorn. In goes Jamieson, who's really soldiered on. Jamieson, he lacks a bit of polish, doesn't he, Jamieson? But he has a dinking crack at it.
And he's playing out of position completely. Yeah. They've had him as a second ruck all day, and that's not his spot.
Williams got another tap down. Kelly, who's lifted his rate after quarter time, and we get another ball up. Time ticking away. 28, nearly 29 minutes gone in the final term. The Hawks by 109. Williams down to Ginby, who rode the tackle but then coughed it up to Weddle, who couldn't get his balance as the ball hits the line, and they tangle, West and also Weddle, and in comes Warple to lift his teammate up, and it'll be a boundary throw in right in front of us here on the broadcast side of the ground.
Well, we might have to get Andrew to check on Oscar Allen limping off too.
Yeah, we'll head down very, very shortly. That would be another really cruel blow for the Eagles as Connor West weaves through some traffic, got it off to Chesser, who was just off balance as he kicked to a contest. Jamieson on hands and knees, fed it up to Gaff. Here's Petruccelli now screaming inside 50. He had a bounce and he dropped the footy.
His legs were going too fast with the ball.
He had the bounce and the ball failed to return to his hands. So Hawthorn will come up with it via Will Day inside that defensive 50. Andrew Cooling's on the boundary. Oscar Allen.
Yeah, currently surrounded by the physios and doctors, was hobbling off. He's got his way to the bench and some concerned looks. I'll have an update shortly.
Gee, wouldn't that be a really cruel blow? Liam Duggan also taking his place from the field a short time ago as Connor Nash sends Hawthorn inside 50 once more. Waterman got back, couldn't take the strong defensive mark. Off hands Newcomb, brushed a tackle, round the body. Giant Newcomb adds another. 115 points. Hawthorn 22-9, 141. West Coast 4-2-26. Goalless in this second half as Giant Newcomb kicks his first and number 22 for Hawthorn.
He didn't have a big first half John Newcomb, but certainly worked his way into this game and really just stamped his authority. When he gets the footy, what I love about him is he just takes off. He goes, and a couple of times there he's been caught, but he's breaking out of it. He makes something happen when he gets the football, and as a midfielder, you can get easy ones and cheap ones and the little 1-2s, that sort of thing, or you can get it, you can bust out, you can do something with it, and that's what I like about him.
Dom Sheed kicked truly at the 28-minute mark of the second term, and that was the last time that West Coast got a goal. 12 unanswered now to the Hawks out of the centre. They'll go forward again. Little handball by Weddle. Got it to Nash. Nash to Newcomb. Weddle kept on running. Now Newcomb goes long. Who can take a mark? Brockman went up. The crumbs. Bruce spun. Around the body. Bramble. It just rolls away into the right forward pocket. Just a bit casual on the snap was Bramble.
They're not letting up either, Hawthorn, are they? It's a minute to go. They're 115 up and they want more.
They're deep in attack again. They lead by 115 as we get close to siren time. Meek knocks it down. In goes Witherden. Newcomb with a big tackle on him, and it'll be a ball up. 32 minutes gone in the final term. 141 plays 26.
So a ball up in the dying embers of this game. It's been a dark day for West Coast. Carl Amon, 40 from goal, rove the tap off to McDonald. Now Warple got it to Weddle. Shrugged the Petruccelli tackle, handball to Greengrass. Mitchell picked it up and got it to Weddle. A little more time this time. O'Neill got him in the end, swung him in the tackle, got the handball out. Amon lays a tackle on Clark.
I think young Weddle was eyeing goal number 3.
I think he was too.
Had a couple of chances to handball it off, but he thought, no, I'll try for number 3.
Tried to force the issue as Kelly roves the tap. His scrubbily kick only went as far as Bramble. 55 from goal. High ball to the teeth of goal, and Mitch Lewis too strong to put an exclamation mark on his and Hawthorn's day. Will go back and kick for number 7, 30 metres out. No real angle to speak of. Round the corner he goes. He's fluffed it.
Just kick it properly, son.
Is that drop punt territory?
Absolutely. Yeah, 15 metres out, almost dead in front.
Way too casual.
Yes, not much has gone wrong for Lewis today, but that went awfully wrong. So the short kicking. We've got a couple of footballs out on the ground at the moment. One still in the goal square. But Rotham kicks to the wing, close to the wing. Warple did the crumbing. There's the siren. And that is about as comprehensive as it gets. Who would have thought? Hawthorn, last place, win by over 100 points, 116 in fact. 22-10, 142. West Coast, 4-2, 26. They are a happy team at Hawthorn.
They were defeated by 108 points by Carlton in round 7, West Coast, and 3 weeks later the situation has only worsened as they go down by 116 points to 17th placed Hawthorn in Launceston. 22-10, 142. The Hawks to West Coast 4-2, 26. They didn't kick a goal in the second half. In fact, it was the 28-minute mark of the second term when Dom Sheed converted. That was the last piece of joy for West Coast on this afternoon. It was a dark and dirty day for the Eagles. Hawthorn, Mitch Lewis kicked 6. Luke Bruce kicked 3. Kazitsky and McKenzie and Brockman and Weddle also had 2. Butler, Moore, Bramble, Newcomb and Warple with singles. And for the Eagles, it was Dyer. Dom Sheed kicked 2. Oscar Allen kicked 1. Jermaine Jones kicked 1, and that was all she wrote. Some of the major ball winners for Hawthorn at the final siren. Connor Nash had 30 disposals, as did James Sicily. Josh Weddle had 28 and 2 goals. James Warple had 27. While for the West Coast Eagles, Dom Sheed battled really hard all day with 30 disposals and 2 goals. Alex Witherden had 28, and Tim Kelly fought it out to have 27 disposals. The narrative going into this game was the need for Reid, Harley Reid, the highly prized and touted number 1 draft pick, who would be favourite to win his rights at the end of the year. That question has been comprehensively answered, Mick Malthouse.
Well, I'm not trying to think too hard about that, because you never know with draftees and this sort of stuff. But the simple fact is, on today's performance, without good players, the Eagles have fallen away very badly. Hawthorn, as the game went on, just got more and more confidence. They're into the wind in the last quarter, kicking 8 goals, and really that last one of Lewis should have been through. So really a complete domination in that last quarter. It's just horrible looking at. I've got Jones with crutches walking off. We've got Oscar Allen, who's down in the race. I can't see him on the ground at the moment.
Duggan went in earlier.
Duggan. You've got Simpson out watching the players as they come off, which I think is commendable. It's easy to get in the rooms. It's interesting. There'll be a big focus, no doubt, on West Coast, particularly in the West, from today going forward till next week, and they play a home game against Essendon. Then you look at the Hawks. The Hawks will probably get better as the year goes on, particularly now that they got Lewis up and running, and to kick 6. Admittedly, the ball was in there. I've got the stats there, Berkey, but inside 50s compared to the Eagles would have been extraordinary. So Lewis will make a massive difference to them, but also some of these younger players. There's 2 things that happen with younger players. They either get better as the year goes on, or they get a bit tired and fall off. It'll be interesting to see how Mitchell handles them as they go on. I think they've got a pretty good blend where they can protect the young players. But the Hawks, this won't be the last game they win, and it won't be the last game they win well, because you've got to be able to strike. When you've got strikers, Lewis is a big striker. He's there. You've got a back line. Sicily was outstanding, unstoppable, really. Sicily, you couldn't get anywhere near him. And yet probably the player that had the biggest influence on the day by way of numbers would have been probably Dom Sheed. Only because he never stopped, kicked 2 goals, had a lot of possessions, defended well, this sort of stuff. But when you get beaten by over 100 points, you can't possibly fit any player from the opposition anywhere near the top 5 or 6 probably players, because the domination was complete. Hardly a bad player. Hawks, they were very, very impressive, because you've still got to win the game regardless of what your opposition throws at you. So well done to the Hawks. Stand by. I don't know who they play next week, but I wouldn't want to be playing them. They've got a massive amount of confidence from this game. They in fact play the Saints.
And depending on what they do this afternoon, they're either going to be full of confidence or have no confidence at all, playing the Giants up in Sydney.
Yeah, you expect them to win.
They should,
but that's another. That'll be a tough game against the Hawks.
Yep.
Because I just see I see Hawthorn having their patches through this year. This is only their second win, but they've been in games and lost quarters badly. Now, let's face it, we've watched Carlton go across and belt West Coast and come back and got beaten. So, it's too easy to say that Hawthorn have arrived and look out for Hawthorn. I'm saying it because of the confidence factor. The West Coast were really bad today. They put up a little bit of resistance early, then fell away. Loose play behind the ball for the majority of the game said to me that they were just trying to stop Hawthorn from kicking what eventually they've kicked anyway.
At 70 inside 50 to 29.
Well, that's on the that's
Hawthorn. Sorry, Hawthorn won every single stat except for free kicks, 15 to 17. That was West Coast favour.
Yeah.
Even though goals from free kicks, I think the Hawks might have won that one.
Yeah.
But we saw the Hawks play Adelaide here probably about a month ago now, and they should have won that game. They outpointed Adelaide the whole way through. It was just a couple of classy things by Adelaide at the end, got them across the line. Even though this is like their second win, they have played a lot better than that. The thing about the Hawks at the moment is you'll get the inconsistency, and they'll get flogged one week and then they'll have a really, really good performance and maybe shock a team or two on the way home. So if you're looking at your fixture on the run home, you say, oh yeah, we've got the Hawks, we'll chalk that one up. Well, I reckon you probably want to rethink that conclusion, because on their day, especially if you get them down here, they can be a pretty formidable young outfit who they're fast, they've got some good defenders, they've got some good key forwards, and if they're on their day, they're going to be tough to beat.
Now, Hawthorn weren't at full strength either this afternoon, it has to be noted. Jath, Morrison, Chad Wingard, Josh Ward, and a couple of others too who didn't play this afternoon. So it wasn't a full-strength team beating up on a severely undermanned one, and it was also the 18th ranked team beating up heavily on the 17th place team, which says a little bit as well. The live ladder has Hawthorn moving up into 16th, North Melbourne going to 17th, and West Coast obviously remain in 18th position. A reminder for listeners on the ABC AFL Extra stream, we're about to end our coverage from here at York Park, but don't go anywhere. Your coverage will end, but then at 4:30 you'll be off to Sydney, where GWS is taking on St Kilda at the Sydney Showgrounds. We'll say goodbye to you for now. That coverage will